Hello everyone, Xeno What If here. Bring in part 4 of What If the Transformers crash landed in Code Geass. Link in the description of the fanfiction of this What If. Listen here YouTube. I do not own anything and this is not a scam. Stolen mask. Suzaku was the pilot. Lelouch exclaimed in shock and surprise as he heard what Optimus just said, for the leader of the Autobots had just returned to the Ark after having witnessed Suzaku and Dreadwing defend Jeremiah from a surprise attack by the rest of the Purebloods as well as Starscream and his fellow Seekers. He also informed them of Princess Euphemia, as well as Megatron's appearance and his claim to be a protector of Britannia. Indeed he was. Optimus Prime confirmed. This nightmare, the Lancelot, moved and reacted the same way it did earlier in Shinjuku. It is without a doubt that Suzaku was the pilot. Well, what do you know? Cliffjumper said. Did not see that coming. Hard to believe a kid could give us all that trouble. Bulkhead noted. The way he moved though when I fought him, it felt like he was piloting that Lancelot thing for years. He's quite the fighter, I'll give him that. Bumblebee admitted, considering he fought the Lancelot. The Lancelot itself is quite the dangerous weapon as well. Fixit said as he accessed the Ark's systems and found the data on the aforementioned nightmare. From our own knowledge of Earth-built nightmares as well as our observations, this Lancelot can move at speeds that surpass any other Britannian nightmare, as well as built-in shields and 4 sets of Harkins. From a scientific standpoint, this nightmare is a work of Sneezes, Breezes, genius. I'm actually a bit surprised Britannia let a so-called 11 pilot an advanced nightmare like that. RC commented. I think it's more they're using him to test pilot it because he is an 11. Ironhide said. I agree. Ratchet said. This is clearly an advanced weapon, though due to human biology being physically weak, there is only so much pressure the human body can take. So if the guinea pig dies from the test, it's no skin of their bones, because the pilot wasn't a true Britannian soldier. Bulkhead surmised, his face containing disgusted features. Optimus and everyone else, even CC, who remained silent during the exchange, looked towards Lelouch as he looked down, his face being one of anger and confusion as he clenched his fists. Suzaku, one of the few people he could consider a true friend, the person who saved him in Nunnally 7 years ago from being killed, was now an enemy. Damn Britannia straight to hell for doing this to him. Hey Lelouch, are you okay? Bumblebee asked in concern as he kneeled down in front of him. My friend is now my enemy, how do you think I feel? Lelouch questioned in obvious sarcasm. Most of the Autobots grimaced a bit as they glanced towards Optimus, who looked sympathetically towards the former prince, as he knew exactly how that felt. However, this situation was very different than his own. Lelouch, I do not believe that Suzaku has to be an enemy. The last of the primes began. We both know his intent on changing Britannia from within. Good luck with that. Cliffjumper commented, only to be silenced as Ironhide glared slightly in his direction. Despite how unlikely that outcome is, we are both aware that his intentions are good. Optimus continued, though he may fight in the Britannian military once more in the future, I do not believe he is naive enough to fully trust Megatron or most of the Decepticons as they have now made their appearance. Protectors of Britannia, my mudflap. Bulkhead exclaimed, the cons are only here because we are. We already knew that would happen going in, and since Megatron is Britannia's true master, I'm not surprised he's playing that card. RC said. Regardless, the fact remains that Suzaku, despite his current alignment, seeks to bring peace to this planet. Optimus continued, which could make him a possible ally in the future. Lelouch looked towards Optimus. I don't know how that'd be possible. Besides the fact he's as stubborn as a rock, he can't just openly join our side without the military using his position to crack down further on 11s. You could use your Geass on him. CC suggested. Wouldn't be too difficult. I won't do that. Not to him, Lelouch said immediately. Most of the Autobots looked in surprise. Did he really value Suzaku's friendship so much that he wouldn't use his Geass and force him to work for him? Optimus however was not surprised, as he knew this from when he and Zero rescued Suzaku from his court-martial and went back of his own free will. We can figure that out later. Ironhide said. What do we do about Megatron? We do now have a general idea of who he has with him. Ratchet responded. Starscream and his band of Seekers are with him, not to mention Soundwave, but that's no surprise, though it would seem that even Dreadwing is at his command as well. Could you explain to me who these Decepticons are? Lelouch requested. I'd like to know what my enemy is capable of. Fixit then accessed the systems from his own smaller console as he and Ratchet began to show images of certain Decepticons on the front screen of the Ark. Starscream is Megatron's second in command. Fixit explained. He used to be air commander of a neutral group of Seekers during the war. Seekers were considered to be the best flyers on Cybertron. He defected to Megatron's side once he took over his personal station. Alongside him are his commanders Thundercracker and Skywarp. Thundercracker is a scientist. Ratchet began. He's among the least reckless of the Decepticons, but he's also a capable fighter in the field. Skywarp, though small and remarkably unintelligent, always rushes in and is also capable of handling his own. Starscream himself however is a coward, always relying on sneak attacks and backstabbing. He's not above groveling either. Ironhide added. Then we have Dreadwing, a former captain of Seeker Armada back on Cybertron during the war. Fixit explained as Lelouch continued to look through the images. He's among the strongest of the Seekers and is a master at both long-ranged and short-ranged weapons. His most preferred are remotely detonated bombs. He is also fiercely loyal to the Decepticon cause. Optimus added. Although I will say that he values loyalty and honor. Though he will not hesitate to terminate an enemy, he will do it on even ground and in battle, not through deception or manipulation. From the way you talk, it sounds like you actually respect him. Lelouch observed. He did aid Suzaku in defending Jeremiah from Starscream and the Purebloods. Optimus said. I'm not surprised. Ironhide said. Most of the cons are pretty rotten, but at least this guy has his own sense of honor. Doesn't change the fact he's still a Decepticon. RC said with a scowl. He took down a few of my friends during the war, so I'm not hanging my hopes on him. Bulkhead commented. I feel we're getting off track. Lelouch said. Right, then we have Soundwave. Ratchet continued. Who is arguably the most dangerous of all the Decepticons next to Megatron himself. He is the eyes and ears of their cause, a technical and tactical genius. His skills as a fighter are pretty top-notch too. Ironhide added. He almost killed me more than once. He's that good, huh? Lelouch raised an eyebrow in surprise. Oh, you have no idea. Cliffjumper commented. Especially considering he's got a small army on him. Pardon. Soundwave carries an assortment of mini-cons with him. Fixit began to explain. There is Laserbeak, his own surveillance drone. Frenzy, who uses speed, Rumble, who can create minor shockwaves, and his most dangerous one, Ravage, who is fast, strong, and can attack from both short and long distance. The screen displayed the images of all four mini-cons, Laserbeak resembling a bird-like drone, Frenzy being a small red mini-con, Rumble being a blue mini-con of similar build with large pounders for arms, and Ravage which resembled a large jungle cat with razor-sharp teeth. Lelouch hated to admit it, but he was impressed. This Decepticon seemed like a truly intelligent one and had disposable drones that each served a functional purpose to cover nearly every possible outcome. In a weird way, it reminded him of himself, and even his older brother Schneisel, and it made him a bit uncomfortable. Soundwave's appearance didn't help all that much either. Is there anyone else? Lelouch asked. Those are the only Decepticons I saw earlier today, besides Megatron himself. Optimus answered. It doesn't mean they're his only troops. Bulkhead said. For all we know, he could have a whole army. Not much we can do about that. Cliffjumper said. But we can figure something out from the Britannian side. So Prince Lelouch, who we're gonna go up against now. Though he could tell Cliffjumper was joking, Lelouch didn't like it one bit. First of all, don't call me that again. Second, I wouldn't worry about Euphemia. She's no fighter and not much of a strategist either. From what I observed from her, it would seem she shares the same beliefs as Suzaku. Optimus added, she too wishes to bring peace to Earth. So she's not one of those fanatics who'd start a massacre. RC questioned somewhat skeptically. Euphemia never once held a weapon in her life. Lelouch commented, she may be a Britannian princess, but I can see she's no killer. Her records seem to confirm that. Fixit added as he pulled up her data. There are no battle records, nothing to indicate that she participated in any form of combat or even politics. In fact, up until now, she has only been a student. So why send someone who's virtually useless here to where Clovis was killed? Ironhide questioned. I doubt it's to make peace. She's probably here because of Cornelia, who is the real threat from Britannia. Lelouch replied. Cornelia Lee Britannia, the elder sister of Euphemia Lee Britannia, and second Royal Britannian princess. Fixit read her records. Also known as the Goddess of Victory, she is the chief general of the Imperial Army piloting a custom-made Gloucester Nightmare. She also leads her own personal squad known as the Glaston Knights who also pilot Gloucesters. Goddess of Victory, huh. I'm guessing you don't get called that for losing. Cliffjumper said. Her records indicate she has not lost a single battle, ever. Fixit said in a surprised tone. Yeah, well she's never gone up against us. Bulkhead said eagerly. Let's not jump the gun just yet. Ironhide said. We also have to keep an eye on Megatron. In addition to taking care not to endanger the civilian population of Japan. Optimus added. If I know Cornelia, she's going to want to sweep up the entire country looking for us. Lelouch said. She'll start taking out other terrorist groups and resistance cells one by one till she finds us. So, Optimus, how should we proceed? Ratchet asked their leader. Lelouch, you should return to Ashford for now. Optimus began. Bumblebee will accompany you, while the rest of us will work to contact OG's group on how we can proceed, until we know our enemy's intention. You're really going to be relying on them? Lelouch questioned. They're the only resistance group we are currently acquainted with. Optimus informed. You even admitted that we alone cannot defeat Britannia and the Decepticons. I know what I said. Lelouch stated. But from what I've seen from them, they're not exactly disciplined. What do you expect? They're not trained soldiers, not yet. Ironhide said. I'm not disapproving the idea, I'm only saying that when we do build our army, we have to be sure to set a proper example so that we become a force to be reckoned with. Lelouch argued. Okay, that does make sense. Bulkhead nodded. Nonetheless, we cannot afford to take risks at the moment, the best thing we can do is wait. Optimus said. Alright, then contact me when you're ready to proceed. Lelouch said as he turned towards Bumblebee. Let's go. Got it, Bumblebee nodded before transforming. Lelouch got into the driver's seat but looked in surprise to see CC getting into the passenger seat. What are you doing? I'm going with you, CC answered. Obviously. No, you're supposed to stay here. Lelouch told her. It's too boring here, the green-haired immortal said. Boring? Lelouch questioned. This is an alien spacecraft being operated by giant sentient robots and you think it's boring? I'm over it, CC commented. Plus there's nothing to eat here. Considering you were shot in the forehead, I don't think you need to worry about starving to death. Lelouch lowered his eyelids. I'd still like to eat something. She replied. Lelouch, come on, it's not like the whole world is out looking for her. Bumblebee bleeped through his radio. The young revolutionary sighed. Fine. He sunk into the seat as Bumblebee drove off toward the groundbridge station on board the downed ship. It was nighttime by the time Bumblebee pulled up to the Ashford Academy clubhouse where Lelouch and CC stepped out. Alright, one last time. Do you know anything about a boy named Rai? Lelouch asked CC. That young man with white hair, blue eyes, and amnesia. CC responded. No, I don't. If you're going to stay here, then I think it's best he not see you, since he's taken up residence with Nunnally and myself. Lelouch advised her. Since he has amnesia, I doubt he'd recognize me from anywhere. CC commented. I think he's more worried about word of a green-haired crazy girl getting out, which can lead to the military coming here and causing a whole bunch of problems. Bumblebee pointed out. Exactly. Lelouch confirmed. Well, I suppose that makes sense. CC nodded. I'll just wait inside Bumblebee till around midnight when everyone's asleep, then climb into your room. Why my room? Lelouch asked. Because. CC answered with a shrug. Lelouch rolled his eyes. Fine. He walked towards the clubhouse as CC got back inside Bumblebee. The black-haired youth entered the dining room to find Nunnally and Rice sitting at the table. Hey, I'm sorry I'm late coming home. Lelouch said. Welcome home, Lelouch. Nunnally greeted. Hey, look who's back. Rai greeted as well. Nunnally, what are you doing up so late? Her brother asked. It's past 10 and we have school tomorrow. It was my fault actually. Rai told him. She was just telling me about, well, you and her being royalty and all. Lelouch did not expect that response as his eyes widened and he gave an audible gasp of shock. You told him? Lelouch questioned. Since he's going to be living with us, I felt it was best to get that out in the open. Nunnally explained. But you don't have to worry, we can trust him. You only just met him today. Lelouch said in a tone that indicated he disapproved of her action. Hey, it's okay, I won't say anything. It's the least I can do for taking me in. Rai assured. I promise I'll keep your secret. Lelouch looked serious for a moment before walking up. Nunnally, would it be alright if I spoke with Rai in private? I promise I won't do anything, I just need to talk to him. Nunnally looked a bit unsure, but she was certain her brother wouldn't hurt Rai or anything. Okay. Rai sighed as he stood up and followed Lelouch into the kitchen. Lelouch, I get why you probably don't trust me with this. But I want answers. Lelouch stated as he activated his Geass and made eye contact. The red sigil flew from his eyes and into Ray's, his brainwave patterns shifted before a pair of red rings formed in his eyes. Alright, what do you need to know? Rai answered automatically, now under the effects of Lelouch's Geass. What do you know about a girl with green hair named CC? Lelouch asked. I don't know anything. Rai responded. This is the first time I've heard of that name. You're certain? Lelouch persisted. I am. Rai nodded. What do you remember prior to arriving at Ashford? Lelouch asked. Nothing past me waking up in the nurse's office and meeting you. Rai answered. So my Geass can't retrieve lost memories from amnesia. Lelouch made a mental note before cutting off his Geass. The rings faded from Ray's eyes as he gave a slight gasp. Is everything alright? He asked Lelouch, having no memory of being under the Geass. It's fine, don't worry. Lelouch told him. But, I know you already said it, but I need you to promise me you won't say anything about me and Nunnally to anyone. I promise, I won't say a word about you and your sister, or about your asshole of a father. Rai responded, though that last comment caught him by surprise. I may have amnesia, but I'm not stupid enough to know that so-called emperor is a pathetic excuse for a human being. And about your mother I really am sorry. Nunnally told you about that? Lelouch asked as Rai nodded. What else did she tell you? Only that Millie and Sayoko are the ones who know about you, and an old friend of yours named Suzaku. I see. Well, if Nunnally trusts you, that's all I need. Lelouch assured. Alright, Rai said with a smile as he and Lelouch walked back into the dining room to talk with Nunnally a bit. Though Lelouch wasn't exactly thrilled with Nunnally that she revealed their identities to a complete stranger, but Rai seemed like a pretty decent person, despite knowing so little about him. But now Lelouch had to think of a plan for him and the Autobots for when they would face Britannia and the Decepticons. So long as there weren't any more surprises in store, things should be fine. The next day, Lelouch couldn't contain yet another surprise as he saw someone standing at the front of the classroom greeting everyone. I'll be joining the student body here at Ashford Academy beginning today. My name is Suzaku Kururugi, it's a pleasure to meet you. Pretty much every student in the class was shocked to say the least. Not only was he pretty much the first honorary Britannian to end up at the school, but he was the very same that was previously accused of murdering Clovis, only to be revealed as a framed victim by the purebloods. On one hand, Lelouch was glad to see him again. On the other, he was still angered a bit because now he knew him as the pilot of this Lancelot nightmare, which could present a problem for him in the future. The last thing he wanted was for his friend to become his enemy. But that can wait. The first thing he needed to do was talk to him after class, and at least make him feel a bit more welcomed and comfortable. It was the liaison that could do for trying to save him when they met and found CC back in Shinjuku. The rest of the class period proceeded pretty normally. It wasn't till after class was dismissed that Lelouch overheard what people were really thinking and saying as Suzaku began to put his stuff away. What's an 11 doing here? He was a suspect in Prince Clovis' murder. But didn't the purebloods frame him? Seriously, that was cold. You don't really think he's a terrorist, do you? Working with that Zero guy and those Autobot things? One student asked worriedly as Colin glanced in Suzaku's direction. Of course he isn't, the school board would know something like that. An 11 here at school? Nina questioned in a somewhat frightened tone. He is an honorary Britannian. Rivals said. That fact didn't make Nina any less nervous. I know, but still all the same. Well, I think it's actually kind of exciting. Shirley said with a smile. I mean, he was face to face with transforming robots. How cool is that? We should. She was about to walk up and give him a friendly greeting, but Rivals stopped her. The guy just got here, give him some space. Rivals didn't mind the idea of Suzaku being here, but being the new guy was always a bit nerve-wracking, so he figured he let Suzaku settle in before saying hi. Lelouch stood up from his seat and began to walk toward the door past Suzaku, who noticed Lelouch the first time he entered the classroom, but hadn't said anything to him since then. Lelouch walked into the doorway, before pulling up on his collar, surprising Suzaku, as he walked outside. Suzaku walked onto the roof of the building to see Lelouch leaning against a railing before walking toward him. He'd be lying if he said he wasn't nervous. It had been 7 years since he'd last seen him, aside from Shinjuku, who knows how much Lelouch has changed. But then again, he changed quite a lot himself in that time. Lelouch turned to him with a friendly smile. 7 years since we used this signal, long time, huh? He greeted as he demonstrated said signal again. Meeting on the roof like the old days. Suzaku greeted back with a friendly smile as well. I'm glad you're okay, I've been worried. Alive and kicking thanks to you. You almost died, trying to protect me. I was just returning the favor, from 7 years ago. Suzaku said as Lelouch's smile faded, as that wasn't the most pleasant of memories. Suzaku then remembered. What about that girl, you know, from the capsule? I don't really know, we got separated during the fray. Lelouch lied. But you would know more about her than I do, right? Suzaku looked down. No, the only ones who knew anything, were the inner circle of the Royal Guard. I see. Lelouch had a feeling that'd be the case, and most of the Royal Guard, including Clovis, were now dead, so not much he could do about that now. In your name, do I still call you Lelouch? The records count my old identity among the dead. I go by the name Lelouch Lamperouge now. Oh, what about you? I mean, you were face to face with actual living robots. That must have been nerve-wracking. Lelouch said. Oh, you have no idea. Suzaku replied. I mean, we've both seen some pretty intense stuff, but something like that, alien robots, that's certainly something new. Alien? Lelouch asked, trying to maintain a cover of ignorance. Oh yeah, I actually found out they're from another planet. Pretty amazing, huh? Suzaku said with an impressed smile. Yeah, and the way they just took out all those nightmares at your court-martial, Lelouch said. You saw that? Suzaku asked in surprise. Pretty sure the whole world saw it. Lelouch stated. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. But the way they just took down almost a dozen Britannian nightmares like that, especially considering those people framed you for something you clearly did not do, Lelouch couldn't contain his own grin. I couldn't help but feel a tad bit of satisfaction for it. Suzaku understood why Lelouch felt that way. He was well aware how much his friend hated his own country. Though he was grateful for Optimus and Zero's help, as well as them letting him go, he wished the situation would have been resolved without resorting to violence. But then again, the purebloods were the ones who shot first, so he couldn't hold them solely responsible. Plus he had a feeling that Optimus was telling the truth about these Decepticons, as he had only met Megatron the previous night and he could tell right away that this particular being did not want peace as he claimed. But, how exactly did you end up from there to here? Lelouch asked Suzaku, changing the subject. I'm surprised as you are. Suzaku replied. What are the odds we'd end up at the same school? Truth is, someone arranged for me to receive a proper investigation, and that person said a 17-year-old should be in school. Princess Euphemia, the same person who arranged for Suzaku's investigation, was looking at several paintings done by her late brother. Her eyes fell on one in particular, showing a much younger Lelouch and Nunnally sitting by their late mother Marianne v. Britannia. Were all of these painted by Clovis? She asked. Yes. A butler responded. Yuffie brushed her hand along the surface of the one depicting her siblings that she missed so very much. Such gentle colors, her eyes wavered a bit as she remembered the smiling faces of her brother and sister. Lelouch, Nunnally. We've successfully identified the guerrillas. A staff officer on board Cornelia's mobile base reported as the data was illustrated on a radar screen at the front. That's good, now all we need is their hideout. Get that intel to the Viceroy. Darlton ordered. Yes, my lord. Several large motor cannons were lined along the side of a large mountain as they opened fire on multiple Britannian tanks on the ground, who returned fire immediately. The rebel forces were able to keep the Britannian military at bay, however this proved to be only a distraction as Cornelia's Gloucester came in from behind. What the? Is that Cornelia? The rebels tried to turn their turrets around to fire on the fast-moving Nightmare. Relics of a forgotten age. Cornelia spat as she maneuvered her Gloucester around the motor shots before leaping up into the air. While airborne, her Gloucester pulled out its rifle and opened fire, destroying a couple motors before she shot one of her Harkins to destroy one, and shooting another to take out a separate motor. Using the cords of the Harkins, Cornelia was able to maneuver around the motors shot at her even while airborne. She landed her Gloucester on the ruins of one destroyed motor turret before contacting her knight. "Darlton, in here, correct?" she asked, referring to the tunnel behind her. "Yes, my lady. Shall we accompany you?" "Not for this level of resistance," she replied as she turned around and drove her personal Nightmare into the tunnel and into the mountain where the rebels were hiding. Understood. Cornelia entered the enemy base where she spotted the rebels. "Surrender at once, you feeble-minded 11s. Down with Britannia," they all exclaimed as they opened fire with rifles, but they barely did any damage to the Nightmare as Cornelia looked around. "Doesn't seem that Zero is here, no sign of any Autobots either. No point in going after them one at a time, I suppose. Vermin, rot like the filth that you are." She opened fire with her Nightmare's rifle to mow down the rebels. Meanwhile, as Darlton and Guilford mopped up the remaining rebels outside the mountain, Dreadwing had maintained a fair distance away from the fight to observe. He wanted to see what Cornelia could do firsthand. She used her forces as a distraction before ambushing her enemy from behind. A simple and old tactic, but an effective one. She may not be much of a strategist, but her skills as a warrior are indeed impressive. Had she been born on Cybertron, she would have made an excellent gladiator in the pits of Count. He thought as he contacted the Nemesis. Dreadwing to Lord Megatron. The operation was a success. Viceroy Cornelia Lee Britannia has wiped out the group known as the Blood of the Samurai. We have yet however to see the Autobots or this Zero. I'm not surprised. Megatron replied. I don't expect Optimus to be able to aid every resistance cell in Area 11. Maintain your position and aid the young Viceroy however you can. Should you locate Optimus, contact me immediately. Understood, my liege, Dreadwing said before he cut off the comms. Dreadwing was impressed with Cornelia's tenacity, though when facing the likes of the Autobots, he was rather uncertain. But then again, that is why he and the Decepticons were here, to better prepare Britannia in facing the Autobots, and he would be certain that Earth would be their final resting place. The Nemesis. Young Cornelia had only just now arrived in Area 11 and is already making her way through all the resistance cells in this country. She certainly doesn't waste any time, Megatron said as he stood on the bridge of his ship with Soundwave by his side. In the meantime, Soundwave, have you managed to locate Kururugi? Soundwave nodded. Excellent. I want you to keep an eye on him, Megatron instructed. Though I am certain he is not aligned with the Autobots, he seems like the individual who Optimus would take an interest in. Should you find anything related to the Autobots in any way, inform me at once. The silent Decepticon nodded once more before entering a set of coordinates in his visor. A ground bridge portal opened in front of him before walking inside and leaving the evil smirking alien warlord. Ashford Academy Clubhouse, evening. Hi Lelouch, we're home. Nunnally greeted as she and Rai came in, with Sayoko pushing Nunnally's wheelchair. Hi there, welcome back. Rai, Sayoko. Lelouch greeted before turning to his disabled sister. I've got a special present for you today. Really? What could it be? Nunnally asked, as she sounded excited. Lelouch smiled before looking to Rai and Sayoko, bringing a finger over his mouth for the two to be quiet as he waved his hand toward the right. Suzaku then stepped out, causing Sayoko and Rai to look in surprise, but still kept quiet. The second Suzaku's eyes set upon Nunnally, he stiffened with nervousness. He quietly and slowly walked towards her before turning to Lelouch, who nodded for him to proceed. He slowly kneeled down to her level and took her hand. Nunnally was surprised at first, but she gave a gasp as she recognized the feeling. This hand, Suzaku smiled, as did Nunnally as tears of joy fell down her face. Thank heaven. I knew it. I just knew you'd be alright. She held his hand close to her face. It's been a long time, Nunnally. After that reunion, Lelouch and Nunnally told Rai about their history with Suzaku, about his father being the late Prime Minister of Japan before Britannia invaded. Of course they also had to explain to Suzaku about Rei's situation, about him having amnesia and him living with Lelouch and Nunnally till he can regain some of his memories, and Nunnally telling him about her and Lelouch's previous royalty status. Suzaku was a bit surprised but also happy to hear about Lelouch opening up to some people, albeit reluctantly. So tell me, you will stay the night, won't you? Nunnally hopped as she, Suzaku, Lelouch, and Rai all sat down for dinner. Suzaku's enrolled as a student at Ashford Academy now, so you can see him anytime you want to. Lelouch told his younger sister. Is that true? Nunnally asked in a surprisingly excited tone. It would be nice to have some visitors here. Rai said as well. Well, I still have military duties, so I can't be here every day. Suzaku replied. Hold on, you were in the military. Rai voiced in surprise as Nunnally looked worried. Yeah, but don't worry, I've been assigned to the engineering corps. It's a lot less dangerous. Suzaku replied. Oh cool. Engineering, huh? Lelouch of course knew Suzaku was lying. But choose not to say anything as to not upset Nunnally. He stood up to refill the teapot. Oh, let me help you. Suzaku tried to stand up, but Lelouch smiled in response. You just sit down. Unlike 7 years ago, we get to be your hosts now. Lelouch told him. Suzaku looked in surprise before smiling back. It's funny, you're a lot more mellow than you used to be. And you're a bit more rough. Suzaku joked. I suppose. Lelouch said in a half-laugh before walking back into the kitchen. So Rai, you really don't remember anything at all? Suzaku asked the white-haired young man. No, nothing prior to waking up here yesterday. Rai confirmed as his smile dropped. No parents, no home, nothing. Suzaku asked. Nothing at all. Rai said, causing Suzaku and Nunnally to offer sympathetic expressions. I'm really sorry. Suzaku said in total honesty. Thanks, but it's not all bad. You know what the best part of having amnesia is? Rai asked with a half-smile. No. What is it? Suzaku asked in confusion. Rai shrugged. You tell me, I don't remember. He joked, causing Suzaku to laugh while shaking his head, even Nunnally giggled a bit. Yeah, I know. Pretty corny huh? Meanwhile, back in the kitchen, Lelouch shook his head with a smile at Rei's bad joke as he refilled the teapot. But his smile faded once he saw CC enter the room. I told you to stay in my room. That boy out there, he's the Britannian soldier from Shinjuku as well as the pilot of that Lancelot nightmare, isn't he? Are you sure this is wise? She asked. Don't worry, it's fine. He's an old friend from the past. Lelouch said. You're getting out, Jeremiah. Guilford said as the glass cell door opened to reveal Jeremiah bound in a straitjacket and looking at the Britannian knight with a hopeful expression. Lord Guilford, you see I'm innocent, don't you? However, Guilford did not share the same feelings. Well, it seems in the eyes of the court you are, Orange Boy. He spat in disgust, much to Jeremiah's shock. One thing is certain, you used Prince Clovis' death to further your own agenda, and allowed his true killer to escape, but not without suffering a humiliating defeat at the hands of these Autobots. If it were up to me, I'd see that you rot away in this cell for the rest of your life. As of this moment, the purebloods' connections to the homeland have all been severed, and you've been demoted 3 ranks for failure. Jeremiah's face was one of complete horror. He had just now lost everything. And it was all because of Zero and those Autobots. You have 2 options to choose from, starting over as a pilot, or cultivating an orange farm. Ashford Academy Clubhouse. You should come by again, Nunnally would enjoy it. Lelouch told Suzaku as he was about to leave. Sure, but Suzaku looked a bit uncertain. Lelouch, I don't think we should be seen together at school. What do you mean? Lelouch asked in surprise. Think, how would you explain it? Suzaku began. Being friends with an honorary Britannian. We have to guard your secret. I know that Rai has promised not to say anything, but still, that doesn't change the dangers that could come if the wrong people find out. I don't want to cause you or Nunnally any trouble. Doing it again, huh? Lelouch questioned in anger. Everyone's needs but your own. Again, Suzaku questioned in surprise. Forget it, Lelouch grumbled. Despite this, the Japanese youth still gave a friendly smile. Thanks for having me. He turned around and was ready to leave. I'll see you. He noticed something out of the corner of his eye and looked in shock, so much so that his eyes widened like dinner plates. Lelouch noticed where he was looking and looked in surprise. He noticed Bumblebee. It was no surprise that Suzaku would recognize the vehicle mode of the Autobot Scout considering he fought him in Shinjuku with the Lancelot, despite the change in license plate number as well as the subtle change in the paint job to make it look a bit rusty while on school ground. Scrap. He saw me. Bumblebee thought but kept as quiet and still as possible. Hail Lelouch, that car, Suzaku began, but the former prince interrupted him. That's my car actually. Yours. Suzaku looked at him in surprise. I kinda used to gamble, and I used the money I got to buy that. Lelouch lied. Suzaku still looked at the yellow and black car in surprise. But, it looks just like that one Autobot from the news. Lelouch finished. I assure you, it's not. It was in the parking lot when I saw the whole thing, and considering I've been driving it, I'd think I'd know if it was an alien robot. Suzaku seemed convinced. Alright, I guess you got a good point. So, anyway I'll see you later. Yeah, Lelouch nodded reluctantly as he saw Suzaku walk away, before breathing a sigh of relief and walking towards Bumblebee. That was close, Bumblebee said once Suzaku was far enough away. So, Suzaku is at your school now. Looks that way. Lelouch confirmed, in a tone that suggested he wasn't too thrilled. Not with Suzaku being there, but with that he knew his friend was right about them not being seen together at school. We should tell Optimus about this, he'd want to know, Bumblebee told him. Tomorrow after class, Lelouch stated. Right now, I'm just not in the mood. Because he's still with the Britannian military and we're probably going to fight him again in the future. Or that he's your friend and you can barely speak with him to hide your own identity. Both. Lelouch confirmed, neither noticing CC looking at them from the window of Lelouch's bedroom. The next day, class seemed to be going pretty well the next day, that is until Suzaku walked in before class started and all the other students stopped talking and most looked towards him with surprise. A few of them looked with disgust at how an 11 attended their school. He sat down in the room, across from where Rai was sitting. Rai had been told by Lelouch about Suzaku's request, and he didn't like it one bit. So what if the guy was from Japan? What did that matter? He was still human just like everyone else. Being from a different nation shouldn't be a crime. As he looked at some of the disgusted looks some of the students gave him, Ray's own fists clenched in anger. The Ark. The blood of the samurai. Ratchet questioned as Team Prime had contacted both Ogi and Zero on different lines, Ogi talking from a phone in his own small base hidden in a ghetto, and Lelouch being at Ashford on his own cell phone. Yes, it hasn't made the news yet, but they were completely wiped out by Cornelia. Ogi informed. They were the largest resistance group in central Japan. I see, they're going after every large resistance group, likely searching for us, while also wiping out any enemy forces in the country that pose the biggest threat. Optimus said, it was actually a decent strategy. Yeah, it may only be a matter of time before she comes for us. Ogi stated. Unfortunately Ogi, it's not just Cornelia we need to worry about. Zero told him. Huh, that's right, we have confirmation that Megatron is here. He and the Decepticons are getting ready to mobilize as we speak. Ironhide stated. What? They're here in Japan? Ogi practically screamed. Don't sound so surprised, Ratchet said. We knew they'd arrive sooner or later. I know, I just hoped that it would be later rather than sooner. Ogi admitted. Keep your head cool Ogi, panicking will do no good. Zero said. Zero is correct, Optimus agreed. The best thing we can do now is to wait for our moment. Until we know what Megatron and Cornelia have planned, we'd only be charging in blindly, which is something we cannot afford. Okay, I understand, Ogi said with a sigh, having appeared to calm down. Sit tight Ogi, we'll contact you soon on our next step. Zero told him. I understand, we'll wait for you. Ogi then hung up, leaving Lelouch's line the only one on the Ark's frequency. Lelouch, Bumblebee has told us that Suzaku is now a student at your school. Optimus said. Yes, I met with him yesterday. Is this going to be a problem? Ratchet asked. I don't think so, Lelouch replied. He doesn't know I'm Zero, and he wouldn't do anything that would put Nunnally in danger. Here, he's no threat to anyone. Well, it would be easier for us to keep an eye on the kid then. Ironhide commented. Lelouch, as we have told Ogi, it is best that you remain at Ashford for the time being. Should we need you, we will contact you. Alright, and I don't think this needs to be said, but I feel it's best the rebels don't learn about Suzaku piloting that Lancelot, it could cause some trouble. Lelouch stated. Understood. Optimus nodded. Contact me as soon as you can, once you're ready to proceed. Lelouch hung up. Lelouch hung up his phone as stood in the middle stairwell where nobody else was, having something of a contemplated look on his face. Why does it feel like I'm taking orders from them? I'm nobody's subordinate. His thoughts were cut off as he glanced out the window. He was nearby and noticed Suzaku washing his white shirt which had red writing on it that said, "Go back to your ghetto, 11." That caused Lelouch's eyes to widen in shock. Meanwhile, in a separate part of the school, Nina was typing furiously on a computer, solely focused on the data she was working on when the door opened. Nina. She gave a slight gasp as she was startled, but calmed down when she saw it was Nunnally who came in via her electric wheelchair. I'm sorry, am I too loud? Not at all, why are you here? Nunnally asked. What about class? Nina shivered slightly. Oh, something wrong. Well I don't know, a little scary. Nina held her arms with fear. Scary? Nunnally questioned. We have a transfer student at our class now. Nina said. It's that boy who was accused of murdering Prince Clovis. The same one with those giant scary robots. He's an 11. Nunnally gasped, as she knew she was talking about Suzaku. Nina was afraid of him, which caused the younger girl to look sad. The Ark, Cornelia and Megatron, huh? Well, so much for it being easy. Cliffjumper commented. When is it ever easy for us? Bulkhead questioned. Optimus, with all due respect, I can see where Lelouch and his Geass can help us. RC began. But I can't help get this feeling that he only sees us as tools to bring down Britannia. Do you believe he may betray us? Optimus asked. Why would Lelouch do that? Fix-It asked. His reasons for fighting Britannia are sound, and seeing how the Decepticons are now allied with them, I see no reason why he would side with them. Well, he does know that he needs us if he stands any chance of taking down Megatron too. Bulkhead pointed out. I'm not saying Lelouch would go over to their side, I sincerely doubt he would. RC pointed out. But I don't think that he's on our side, or anyone's side but his own. We already figured he had trust issues, RC. Cliffjumper said. Given what happened to him and his sister, I'm not really surprised. You all heard how he spoke yesterday, however. Ratchet said. His goal is indeed to bring down Britannia, and maybe he does have the right reasoning to do so, but his methods and his ideology. Not to mention his friendship with Suzaku. Ironhide added. Two good friends wanting to change their world. While one doesn't believe in violence as a means of achieving justice, the other wants to overthrow the old regime through force. This all sounds far too familiar for comfort. Optimus had a serious expression as he spoke. You believe the situation involving Lelouch and Suzaku parallels that of my former friendship with Megatron before the war. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't more than concerned about history repeating itself. Ratchet admitted. I am more than aware of the similarities between these situations. Optimus said. As well as the characteristics between Suzaku and my younger self, as well as that with Lelouch and Megatron. However, I have noticed a fair amount of differences as well with both of them. I can respect Suzaku's beliefs, on his goal of changing the Britannian Empire from within through peaceful methods, and perhaps there are those who will try to aid him, such as Princess Euphemia. However, Suzaku has yet to understand that there are those with power who will do whatever it takes to maintain that power, those who refuse to change for the better. A lesson that I learned myself when it was already too late. All the Autobots were listening to Optimus and gave him sympathetic expressions as they, Ironhide and Ratchet in particular as they knew him the longest, that he did try to bridge peace between Autobots and Decepticons and tried to reason with Megatron several times, only to learn the hard way that Megatron and many of his followers do not want peace, but power. The same goes for Lelouch. Optimus continued. I am aware that his goals may be extreme, and may parallel Megatron's, however at his core, Lelouch is good, despite both his upbringing and his experiences. Bumblebee has told me of what he learned of the relationship between Lelouch and his sister Nunnally, and we have seen that he values his friendship with Suzaku, even refusing to use his Geass on him to get what he wants. That is the difference that separates Lelouch from Megatron. He is young and he has much to learn, but he is capable of both compassion and love, driven by a desire to create a world not for himself but for those he cares for. Megatron's only desire has been to obtain power solely for himself and no one else. And you believe you can help guide Lelouch down a more peaceful path? Ratchet questioned. One of justice, not revenge. Yes. Optimus confirmed with a nod. Britannia must be stopped, but we must also do what we can to avoid becoming just like them. Megatron will do everything in his power to obtain what he wants. He will drive this Earth to the breaking point. No matter what, we cannot allow this world, or humanity, to pay for our mistakes. We're with you, Optimus, all the way. RC swore as she clenched her fist. Got that right. Bulkhead nodded. You know I'll always stand by your side, Optimus. Ratchet confirmed. So will I. Ironhide swore. And if it also means smacking some sense into Lelouch, then so be it. It's time to show the Khans and Britannia that they aren't the only superpower here. Cliffjumper said. I may not be a fighter, but I am an Autobot. Fix-It stated. And I will do everything I can to stop the Decepticons. Optimus nodded as he gave a slight smile. It has been an honor serving with you all. A delivery man from Pizza Hut had pulled up to the Ashford clubhouse with a large pizza and was about to ring the doorbell when CC already opened it. Oh, thanks for all the repeat business. Although the name on the account we debit has a guy's name on it. Is that okay? However, neither of them noticed a stray black cat, the very same one Suzaku and Euphemia had met when they first met and bandaged up, walk into the clubhouse underneath CC's feet. Lelouch worked on creating a secondary compartment on his personal bag for him to store his Zero mask in, with said mask being in front of him. If he ever needed to dun his identity as Zero, it would be best to have the mask on him at all times as to assume his role as a revolutionary as soon as possible. CC walked in with her personal pizza, with the cat right behind her, and saw what he was doing. Trying to hide your mask, huh? Unlike my Geass, the mask is a physical piece of evidence. Lelouch responded as he put the mask in his bag when Nunnally came in. Alright Lelouch, the tea is ready when you are. His sister told him before sniffing something. That smell. Hey, did you order pizza again? I'm racking up reward points. I'll be right down. Okay. Lelouch got up and left his open bag on the table. Lelouch, maybe you should cut down on the pizza. Nunnally advised lightheartedly. You wouldn't want a blubbery belly. Just don't touch or rub it, okay? Lelouch joked as he walked past CC. Ooh, scary. Nunnally laughed as they both left the room. As CC looked in the direction where they left, she failed to notice the cat digging its way through Lelouch's bag until the bag fell down on top of the cat, where it gave a loud meow in distress. She looked in the direction where it happened as the cat slipped past her with something on its head. What the heck? Lelouch sighed. Yeah, Wright told me he saw some of that going on. They're just being cruel to Suzaku. Nunnally said as she held her tea. It was no secret that several of the students were openly displaying racism towards the so-called 11. No, it's just, these things take time, people will come around. Lelouch tried to assure his sister. Isn't there anything you can do, though? Nunnally asked. I mean, he is your friend. Lelouch didn't really have an answer for that. There were just a lot of complicated feelings about Suzaku right now. However, Lelouch's thoughts were interrupted when he saw the stray cat enter the room and meow, which just so happened to have his Zero mask on its head. This caused Lelouch to stand up and practically scream in shock, causing Nunnally to look in surprise. The cat hissed as Lelouch tried to chase after it. Hey, give that back. Lelouch. Nunnally titled her head. The cat gave multiple annoyed and distressed meows as it tried to shake the mask off its head while also being chased out the window by Lelouch. A cat. A stupid little cat. He climbed out the window and chased it outside. You gotta be kidding me. There's no way I'm getting exposed by a lousy feline. CC ate a slice of pizza when she saw Lelouch chasing the cat from the window in Lelouch's room. That wasn't my fault, was it? I didn't touch anything. Thanks to help from Sayoko, Nunnally had called Rai, Rivals, Millie, and Nina to see if they could help. A cat? Rai asked in surprise. Yeah, that's right. Nunnally confirmed. I think a cat ran off with something pretty important to him. Important? Millie questioned. I'm not sure what exactly, but I'm positive it was something of value to him. Nunnally said. Because, I've never heard my brother sound like that. He was completely hysterical. That's weird, what could be so important to the guy? Rivals wondered. Maybe the keys to his car. Rai suggested. A love letter. Nina wondered. An embarrassing photo. Millie guessed. Poetry he wrote. Rivals guessed as well. Poetry. Nunnally questioned. Her brother wasn't a poet, so it probably wasn't that. Well, whatever it is, we're gonna help him find it, right? Rai asked as he saw Millie and Rivals sharing mischievous smirks. Leave it us. Millie assured. We'll get our hands on this thing before Lelouch has a chance to blink. Just you wait. She gave Nunnally a thumbs up, despite the younger girl not being able to see it. Rai didn't know why, but he did not like the look in Millie's eyes. Lelouch had chased the cat to the main school building as he followed it the garden and apparently lost it for a second. If I had the Autobots with me, we could encircle the enemy, no. If they found out about this, I'd never hear the end of it. He spotted the cat running along the roof and began to follow it along the ground, but he wasn't watching where he was going and ended up tripping over a bush. The cat jumped down onto the ground and ran past Lelouch as he got up. Get it together, Lelouch said to himself as he resumed the chase with the cat making it inside the building. It passed by a few students in the hall, but none of them appeared to have noticed it, save for two girls as it stopped near them to try and shake the mask off. What's up with that cat? Is that the mask Zero wears, or am I crazy? The other one asked as they saw the cat run off. No way, why would it be here? Lelouch had just stopped in front of them. You two saw it. He quickly activated his Geass. Forget everything you've just seen. Immediately, red rings formed in both their eyes. Sure, no problem at all. They both said at the same time. Good. He continued to chase the cat throughout the hallways till he heard the school chime. This is Millie Ashford, your student council president. Cat hunt everybody. The announcement reached all across campus, including the room where Suzaku was studying, and even where Bumblebee was parked outside as CC sat on his hood while eating a slice of pizza. Cat hunt? Bumblebee questioned out loud. Millie was in the announcement room along with Nina, Rai, and Nunnally as she spoke through the intercom. There's a cat loose that needs to be rounded up. Put everything on hold, people. Participating clubs will get budget priority. Is all this really necessary? Rai thought as he looked in a mixture of surprise and nervousness. It even reached the pool room where the swim club was at, with Shirley prepared to take a dive off the top diving board. And whoever manages to catch our feline friend will get an extra special prize. A big old kiss from one of the members of the council. Wait, what? Rai practically shouted over the intercom in near horror. That announcement caused Shirley to lose her balance as she screamed and comically fell off the diving board to belly flop into the pool. Members of the Wait Like Me? Colin questioned in shock. Exactly. At least 24 boys from the Film and Science Club popped out of the bushes, much to Colin's surprise. You've been hanging around the student council, haven't ya? I wouldn't mind a taste of those lips. It's not like gonna be a lame peck on the cheek though, is it? A kiss on the cheek would be fine with me. Wait, we can choose where she lands it. Ooh, yeah. The perverted guys all moaned while Colin had a look of comic horror, getting a whole bunch of stalker and rape vibes from this. Alright, all the guys shouted as they ran off to search for the cat. There's no way that's how I'm gonna get my first kiss. Colin exclaimed with her face being more red than Cliffjumper's paint job as she ran for her life to catch the cat before some random pervert did. What from a member of the council? Does that include Lelouch? A female student asked as she and several other girls squealed in delight. Actually, I prefer Millie. One girl said shyly, much to the other girl's surprise. Could you get back in the closet please? A horribly insensitive girl stated. Hut, hut, hut. The football team was already on the run for the cat. We have the advantage in mobility. The equestrian club was on horseback. Hurry, look for catnip. Science will prevail. The science club tried to dig into the ground. And when you do catch that cat, bring whatever it's carrying to me. To me, to me. Millie exclaimed joyously before coughing furiously over the intercoms. Scrap. This is the last thing I need. Lelouch cursed as he tried to find the cat after losing it in the hallways. Colin ran through the halls as well, offering people up as prizes. That's why I hate Britannians. She stopped however as she passed by a few other students in order to maintain her sickly facade, but resumed running once they were gone. Damn it. Why do I have to pretend that I'm sick and feeble? Colin however bumped into someone around the corner. Geez, I'm sorry about that. She however looked in surprise to see who she bumped into. Shirley, why are you dressed like that? Colin questioned on account Shirley was still in her bathing suit. I didn't have time to change, they're gonna make us kiss somebody. Shirley stated as she looked like she was about to have a panic attack. We gotta hurry. I'm with you. Well, this could be a problem. Cece said as she stood up from Bumblebee's hood. What could be? Bumblebee asked. That thing the cat is carrying, happens to be Lelouch's Zero mask. Wait, what? The Autobot scout exclaimed through bleeps. How the heck did that happen? You got me. Cece shrugged as she got into the driver's seat. But we better find it. How are we supposed to do that? Bumblebee questioned. I can't just transform and look for a cat. And I can't drive without someone in the driver's seat. That's why I'm sitting here. Cece said. All you have to do is drive and find the cat, I'll grab it in the mask. Well, sure but, do you want Lelouch's cover to be blown? Cece questioned. Then you better find the cat. If he could, Bumblebee would have an exhausted look on his face. Oh Primus help me. Fine, let's go. But don't expect me to kiss anyone. He drove off toward campus to try and find the cat and mask any way he could. Rye, where are you going? Nunnally asked, as Rye was about to run out of the room. To find that cat, Rye exclaimed. I don't know if I was kissed or not before, and I don't want my first kiss to be with some random stranger. He ran out of the room as Millie drank a glass of water to clear her throat. Nunnally, is there anything about this cat that's special? Nina asked as Nunnally began to think. Millie brought the intercom towards her mouth so that everyone else could hear her description. I think that its leg must be hurt, because its footsteps sounded off to me. And oh, I almost forgot, it meowed like this. Quote. Meow. Nunnally's attempt at a meow echoed well past campus, with all the other students cheering and meowing at the same time. It was even heard by Soundwave as he stood on the roof of a building 3 blocks away. Though he honestly couldn't care what the students were doing, all this activity would make it difficult for him to get any closer without drawing attention to himself, and he needed to be discreet to fulfill his master's mission. Should you find anything related to the Autobots in any way, inform me at once. Soundwave repeated Megatron's orders through his recordings before deploying Laserbeak from his chest. The drone that set off for Ashford Academy. "'Kay, let's go." Millie hopped into the sidecar of Rivals's motorcycle. What happens if a member of the student council catches the cat? Rivals asked. We don't get a prize, do we? Do we get a kiss? But of course, Millie answered. That's so. Rivals was now all the more motivated to catch the cat, if it meant getting a kiss from Millie. Well, what are we waiting around for then? This is my day to shine. He drove off in hot pursuit. Hey, no speeding on campus, a random teacher called out. Colin and Shirley had actually managed to corner the cat underneath a table as it hissed defensively at them. Fortunately, they did not see the mask that was still stuck on its head. Colin had also provided her jacket to Shirley to give her some decency as she was beyond embarrassed for running around campus in her swimsuit. Okay, we do this right and our lips will be safe. Shirley, you cover the rear. Colin was about to approach the cat. Wait a sec. Shirley stopped Colin. What's the matter? The redhead asked. Who would you want to get a kiss from? Is there anyone in particular? Shirley asked, surprising Colin. It wouldn't be Lulu, would it? Colin did not expect that sort of question. Just what would make you think that? Shirley stuttered as her cheeks turned pink. Oh well, I guess, it's just, as she stuttered, the cat used this opportunity to slip past the two girls, neither of them noticing the Zero mask that it was still wearing. The cat was running along the roof toward the clock tower. Suzaku happened to spot it, but didn't get a good look at what it had on its head. Hey, that's. He ran towards the bottom of the clock tower where he ran into both Rai and Lelouch. Suzaku. Lelouch and Rai both questioned in shock. Lelouch. Rai. You guys are looking for the cat too? Suzaku asked. Well, it's kinda my fault. Rai rubbed the back of his neck nervously. Nunnally told me the cat had something of yours, Lelouch, I told Millie. Lelouch looked at Rai in surprise. And I thought she'd try to help, but I had no idea she'd bring the whole freaking school in on it. Ordinarily Lelouch would have been angry, but there were other things to be worried about right now. You clearly don't know Ashford's resident she-devil. She-devil? Suzaku questioned in surprise when the trio heard a loud meow from the cat echoing at the top of the clock tower. Up there. Suzaku. Rai. Wait. Lelouch tried to chase after them as fast as he could, though he was in far less shape than they were, with Suzaku at the lead and Rai in the middle as they ran up the stairs. Don't go up there. But the student council president said to catch it. Suzaku exclaimed as they continued to climb the stairs. Well, it's my fault, so I should catch it. Rai tried to argue. Plus I don't wanna be kissed by some random stranger. Then I'll catch the cat. Lelouch argued back as he fell a bit behind. Don't worry about it. I was always more agile than you. Suzaku told him. Remember when that little bird got loose? A bird? Rai questioned. Quit talking ancient history. Lelouch exclaimed. It was only 7 years ago. Suzaku stated as he got a major lead, with Rai falling behind to help Lelouch. You okay, Lelouch? Rai tried to help him up. He tried to catch his breath. He always was an exercise nut. Bumblebee had driven towards the back of the clock tower to avoid being seen. His optics spotted the cat as it climbed out of the window and toward the bell at the top. Okay, I see the cat. Now you go and get it. He told CC, who was still in the driver's seat. Not a good idea, CC said. There's already a huge crowd. More than a dozen students were at the front of the tower. None of them noticed Bumblebee in his vehicle mode on the other side as everyone kept their eyes on the top. This included Shirley, Colin, Nina, and Nunnally, even Rivals and Millie as the blue-haired teen pulled up in his motorcycle. So someone's got it cornered, huh? So who's the lucky winner? Millie asked. Up there. Shirley pointed to the top of the roof where Suzaku was climbing closer to the cat. Suzaku. Easy now, you don't have to be scared. Suzaku tried to ease the cat as Rai climbed out the window after him. You got it? Rai asked. Suzaku. Rai. Come back. Lelouch called to them as he stuck out the window. It's all right, leave this to me. Suzaku insisted with Rai being close behind him. Lelouch scowled. He never went with the crowd like this. It's no wonder the military is having him pilot the Lancelot. He had to think of something and fast. Lelouch then pretended to lose his grip and was actually about to slide off the roof. All the students on the ground looked in shock and terror at this sight. Even Bumblebee could see it and he looked like he was about to make a move, but CC put her foot on his brakes to stop him. Suzaku looked back and gasped. Lelouch. Crap. Rai exclaimed as he and Suzaku both slid down the roof to try and grab him. Lelouch was about to completely slide off the roof. Fortunately Rai caught his left hand and used his feet to steady himself on the gutter while Suzaku caught Lelouch's right arm and caught the window with his other hand. Lelouch, are you okay? Suzaku asked him. Yeah, he responded as he was practically dangling off the roof while all the students below looked in surprise. Suzaku and Rai tried to pull him back up, while Lelouch looked past them to see the cat slide underneath the bell, allowing the Zero mask to slide off. He saw it bounce off the roof a bit before catching on a window pike on the other side, where no one else could see it, causing Lelouch to inwardly breath a huge sigh of relief. Suzaku and Rai pulled Lelouch back up into safety. You okay? Rai asked him. Yeah, thanks. Lelouch nodded. Pretty calm for someone on the verge of death. Suzaku tried to joke to lighten the mood. Yeah right, I was just limp with fear. Millie couldn't hear them, but she could tell there was some interaction between the three of them. Hey, what's going on? Nunnally asked. Ryan, that new transfer student just saved Lelouch from a really close call. Millie answered, causing Nunnally to look in surprise before smiling. Suzaku had managed to grab the cat from the bell tower and pull it inside, with the cat biting down onto his arm as Lelouch and Rai looked at it. Suzaku recognized it from the first time he met Euphemia, but chose not to say anything. So this is the little troublemaker. Lelouch wanted to wring its neck for nearly exposing him like that. He doesn't have a collar, probably a stray. Rai said. Kinda like me. He joked a bit, causing Suzaku to chuckle slightly and even Lelouch gave a half smile. Wonder what it was carrying though, the president said it had something. Suzaku wondered. Those were my car keys. Lelouch said. Your car keys? Rai and Suzaku questioned at the same time. You risked your life for some car keys. Suzaku questioned in comical disbelief. Well, I wouldn't some random guy getting them and stealing my car. Lelouch stated. Guess you got a point there. Rai said. And hey, Lelouch, I'm sorry for this whole mess, I didn't mean. Don't worry about, Lelouch assured. Just be sure to watch your back around Millie. She's a good person, but she can be a real demon when she wants to be. Rai chuckled nervously. Yeah, I think I noticed. You guys go on ahead, I just gotta get my keys real quick. Sure thing. Suzaku nodded. Lelouch had exited out the back door of the bell tower with his Zero Mask safe in his hands when he looked in surprise to see both Bumblebee and CC inside the driver's seat. You got it, nobody saw it. Bumblebee asked as Lelouch quickly came to the car. Yeah, right here. He handed CC the mask, which she took into her hands. You really should be more careful with this sort of thing. CC advised. Shut up. He glared at the immortal girl before speaking to Bumblebee. We will never speak a word of this to anyone again. My lips are sealed. Bumblebee assured. No doubt Ironhide and Ratchet, and even RC, would grill both him and Lelouch hard for something like this. Well, they would be if I had any. He then drove off away from the students down a path that no one would see with CC and the Zero Mask safe inside. However, neither of them noticed something passing over them. Lelouch would have probably dismissed it as a regular bird if he saw it, but it wasn't a bird. It was Laserbeak, who flew over and flew back in the direction it came from. Suzaku and Rai had both walked outside to where the other students were waiting for them, with the cat still biting down on Suzaku's arm. The situation felt really awkward as everyone was staring at Suzaku, making him feel slightly uncomfortable. However, Shirley smiled before running up to them. You saved him. Thank you so much, Suzaku. You to Rai. Yeah, way to go there, guys. Rivals gave them both a friendly smile and a thumbs up. That cat was carrying something, wasn't it? Millie asked excitedly. Yeah, it was Lelouch's car keys. Suzaku answered. His car keys. Millie, Shirley, and Rivals all exclaimed at the same time. That's exactly what we said. Rai said with a nervous laugh. You're kidding me, Millie exclaimed. I started this whole cat hunt only to find out Lelouch just lost his keys. What did you think it was? My baby pictures or something? Lelouch questioned irritably as he walked outside to join everyone. Millie comically pouted. After all this time I thought I finally had some dirt on you. Yeah, he almost lost his cool for once. Shirley said in a disapproving tone towards Millie. Rai and Suzaku shared humorous smiles as they glanced toward Lelouch. So do you two know each other then? Colin asked in regards to Lelouch and Suzaku, causing them and Rai to look in surprise. Yeah, but he's an 11, Nina said nervously, causing Nunnally to look in worry. So what? What the hell does that matter? Rai exclaimed, surprising everyone. So what if he's from Japan? That doesn't mean he's any less human. He eats, talks, bleeds, and breathes the way all we do. I don't care where he's from. He just saved Lelouch's life, the life of one of my friends. As far I'm concerned, he's my friend too. Rai stated as he put a firm hand on Suzaku's shoulder. Pretty much everyone was surprised with what Rai said. Though Suzaku was grateful for his support, it made him a bit nervous about the slander he could receive for standing for an 11, but that didn't deter the white-haired boy, nor the raven-haired former prince. Well said, Rai. Lelouch nodded, surprising Suzaku. He's my friend too. He looked towards Millie. Madam President, would you permit both him and Rai as members of the student council? This request surprised everyone even further. The rules are clear, all students are required to join a club, though it would be nice for Lelouch to have them close as he did consider both of them his friends, it would also give him a better opportunity to keep an eye on them and see if Rai can remember anything about his past, to see if he's connected to CC, and maybe see about Suzaku in regards to him being the pilot of the Lancelot. But since Millie was the president, she had final say. Everyone else looked to Millie as she came to a decision. Well, you're the vice president, so I suppose I can't refuse. Her choice caused Rivals, Shirley, and even Colin to smile. She was one of the few people who knew Lelouch and Nunnally's true identities. That being said, she also knew of the time when they were under the Kururugi household before Japan was invaded, so she could tell they had a history with Suzaku, plus she'd like to keep an eye on Rai to help him remember anything on his past. Well then, I'd say that's the end of that. Nunnally said as she rolled close to them. Now come here you three, lend me an ear. Lelouch, Rai, and Suzaku each looked in surprise but leaned in close to Nunnally before she kissed all three of them in the cheek, causing them to look in further surprise. Nunnally, Suzaku uttered in surprise. There you go, the reward Millie promised. Nunnally told them. Rai, you said you didn't want to be kissed by a stranger. Well, I'm not a stranger, and I'm an honorary student council member, so I'd say this still counts. Rai chuckled nervously. Thanks Nunnally, but I think it's best we just stay friends, though it was entirely meant as a joke as several others did manage to laugh. Yeah, that is for the best. Lelouch told him, though his face was smiling, his eyes gave Rai a warning saying, try anything and you're dead. Alright then, let's celebrate the catching of the cat. Rivals exclaimed. Everything's on the new guys naturally. Oh back off. Shirley scolded him before smiling at Suzaku. Hi there, I'm Shirley. Pleasure to meet you. Oh right, I'm Rivals. Millie Ashford, student council president. Though he was surprised, Suzaku couldn't help but smile as other students began to smile and introduce himself or herself to him. Thank you, the pleasure's all mine. As all the other students began to interact with Suzaku, the only one who didn't seem thrilled about this was Nina as her eyes shook nervously. Laserbeak flew away from Ashford Academy and made his way back to Soundwave. The surveillance drone attached itself back to Soundwave's chest before its data downloaded into Soundwave's drives. His faceplate shifted to a record view of Lelouch handing Bumblebee his mask. You got it, nobody saw it. Yeah, right here. You really should be more careful with this sort of thing. Shut up. We will never speak a word of this to anyone again. My lips are sealed. His visor zoomed in on the object in Lelouch's hands, which he identified as the Mask of Zero, and ran Lelouch's voice through his data and found that it matched Zero's 100%. With the data needed, Soundwave transformed into his vehicle mode and flew off. Every single student and faculty member of Ashford Academy had gathered in the main auditorium for a mandatory announcement. A massive television screen flickered on before it projected the image of a massive gathering at Pendragon with the words, Prince Clovis, State Funeral. But it wasn't just Ashford Academy watching. Meanwhile at the Ark, all of Team Prime, save for Bumblebee, who still remained at Ashford Academy, gathered in front of the massive holographic screen projecting the same image. At Pendragon, hundreds of people including nearly every noble had been gathered together, as well as countless soldiers in the homeland as other members of the royal family, both prince and princess as well as the other consorts all sat in the back as a single man began to step up. And now, His Royal Majesty, the 98th Emperor of the Holy Britannian Empire. At Ashford, Lelouch shot the man a hateful glare, while at the Ark, Optimus gave a serious expression at the sight of the man. All living beings are not created equal. Charles Z. Britannia began. Some are born with more power. Some are born swifter afoot. Some with greater beauty. Some with greater strength. Some born into poverty. Some are born possessing abilities that others do not. And others, born sick and feeble. Both in birth and in upbringing. In sheer scope of ability, every living being is inheritedly different. At Ashford everyone was paying attention, though many had different expressions. Shirley looked serious as her eyes shook with fear while Nina had a similar expression. Millie also looked in seriousness. Rivals crossed his arms and had a half smirk. Colin tried her best to hide her hate as her eyes shook. Rai looked at the man and clenched his fists. Was this man really Lelouch and Nunnally's father? The same one who banished and exiled them just for their mother's death and Nunnally's condition. The more he thought about it, the more he hated this man, and he wanted nothing more than to punch his face and knock out a few teeth. Yes, that is why people discriminate against one another. Which is why there is struggle, competition, and the unfaltering march of progress. At the Ark, RC, Ironhide, and Bulkhead shot looks of hate towards the image of Charles. Fixit was greatly intimated, the expression on his face being one of fear. Ratchet and Cliffjumper had hardened expressions while Optimus had a serious look on his face. He could easily tell why Lelouch despised his own father and didn't blame him for it. This man was the flesh and blood incarnation of Megatron and everything the Decepticons stood for. Inequality is not wrong, equality is. Though most people at the TV studio were listening to Charles's speech, Diethard Reed was focusing solely on the recorded footage of Zero's debut with the Autobots. What of the EU, which made equality a right? Rabble, politics, by a popularity contest. The Chinese Federation with its equal distribution of wealth. A nation of lazy dullards. But not our beloved Britannia. Obi and the rest of his comrades in the Kazuki resistance cell watched the TV, and most could either glare or look in fear. Obi was among the former. The Britannian military across Area 11 watched and listened as well, including the now demoted purebloods along with Jeremiah and Valletta, even Lloyd and Cecile in the Special Corps. Though Lloyd honestly couldn't care less. We fight, we compete, evolution is continuous. Evolution, such a pretty little word. Lloyd mused amusingly. Several of the countless Viacon troopers throughout the Nemesis found themselves listening to Charles' speech as well. Among them were Starscream, Thundercracker, Skywarp, and Dreadwing. Though Dreadwing and Thundercracker looked with serious expressions, Skywarp looked bored out of his mind while Starscream merely smirked. Britannia alone moves forward, steadying alone into the future. Spoken like a true puppet. Starscream said with a chuckle. Even the death of my son Clovis demonstrates Britannia's unswerving commitment to progress. Both Euphemia and Cornelia stood together and watched. Cornelia maintained an ironclad position, while Euphy tired to stand straight, but one look in her eyes said that she was crying hard on the inside. And now, I have a special message I'd like to give to a certain group of individuals. To this Zero and these beings called the Autobots who claim to fight for the ridiculous and false concepts of justice and freedom. Charles continued, you have made a grave mistake in challenging Britannia. All other foes who would dare challenge us have all fallen, and you shall suffer the same fate. You may be strong, but you misuse your power in defending the weak. That alone makes you weak, not in physical strength but in will. Do you hear me, Optimus Prime? No matter how you may challenge us, we will fight on. We shall struggle, compete, plunder, and dominate. And in the end, the future shall be ours. All hail Britannia! 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 Bumblebee heard all of this from his own radio as CC sat in the driver's seat while holding the helmet of Zero. So, this is your enemy. Yep. Bumblebee confirmed. Just from this speech alone, Bumblebee had begun to hate Charles with every fiber in his body, almost as much as Megatron. He was looking forward to knocking Britannia down a peg. Bring it on, you wannabe Megatron! Bulkhead exclaimed. Bring it on! Who else votes for groundbridging to Pendragon and making him eat his own words? Cliffjumper proposed. I wouldn't mind, RC commented, her hate-filled eyes not shifting from the screen. Remember, we have to proceed carefully. Ratchet reminded the team. Yes, like Lelouch previous said, we don't want to plunge the Earth into chaos. Fix-It stated. Yeah, we know. Ironhide stated. But that doesn't make me hate this man any less. Indeed. Optimus agreed. Even without Megatron's influence, this world has produced its own Decepticons in human skin. As Suzaku looked at the image, he couldn't help but recall the one question Optimus asked him that he couldn't forget no matter how hard he tried. What if you go down this path, and you're wrong? The more he thought about it, especially after hearing Charles's speech, the more it seemed to make sense. No. Suzaku clenched his fists. He can't be wrong. He just can't be. Because if he was, and Britannia can't change, what hope is there for this world? Lelouch glared at the image of his father. He swore, even if it was the last thing he did, he would obliterate his father's empire. He would burn him and everything he stands for to the ground. No matter what. Megatron stood alone on the bridge of the Nemesis as he saw and listened to the whole speech. He couldn't help but give a smirk of pride. I expect nothing less from my pupil. He heard the door opened behind him and saw his most trusted soldier walk in. Soundwave, I trust you found something very interesting. Soundwave nodded as he produced a set of tentacles from his body and they attached to the main console on the bridge before a screen on the front appeared as he showed the recorded footage Laserbeak caught. You got it, nobody saw it. Bumblebee asked as Lelouch quickly came to the car. Yeah, right here. He handed CC the mask, which she took into her hands. You really should be more careful with this sort of thing. CC advised. Shut up. Lelouch glared before speaking to Bumblebee. We will never speak a word of this to anyone again. My lips are sealed. The Autobot scout. Megatron questioned as he recognized Bumblebee. So, he is stationed at this place. Soundwave however paused the image and zoomed in on what the human boy was handing to the girl inside before the image focused and the item in question was shown in clear quality. Zero's mask, Megatron stated. Soundwave then began to shift the image as the screen split in two. One showed the image of Lelouch, the other of Zero in his debut. Yeah, right here. I am Zero. The vibrating lines represent the voices of each of them came together and were a 100% match. Megatron couldn't help but look in a mixture of surprise and amusement. So, the mysterious Zero is a youth of Britannia. Megatron wondered. I would have thought he'd be someone of Area 11, or from somewhere else that fell to Britannia's onslaught. This is certainly. However, Megatron noticed that Soundwave wasn't done yet. He saw the image of Lelouch change as Soundwave remotely hacked into the files of Ashford Academy, something very simple for the eyes and ears of the Decepticons, and found his student ID, both a name and photo, Lelouch Lamperouge, age 17. But he wasn't done yet. Soundwave ran Lelouch's face through the records onboard the Nemesis, which also kept records of Charles Z. Britannia and his royal family. He found a match, Lelouch v. Britannia. Charles' youngest son, Megatron observed. Lelouch v. Britannia. The evil alien warlord then began to chuckle before it erupted into full-blown laughter. Such irony. Charles' own son aims to topple his empire. But, now that I think about it, the more it makes sense. Wasn't young Lelouch exiled to Japan with his youngest sister following his mother's death? Soundwave nodded in confirmation, and the official records count him and his sister among the dead. Megatron continue. Obviously with Lelouch those claims are exaggerated, but does his sister live as well? How did they live? Did Optimus save them upon Japan's invasion? No, he wasn't even there, for if he were, he surely would have done more than that. Which suggests that perhaps Optimus has met Lelouch rather recently. And given how his own father left him and his sister for dead, it's no secret that he hates his own empire. So his identity as Zero is merely a child's game of revenge, yet Optimus clearly sees something within him, something that he views as worthy to make him fight alongside him. If Optimus sees value in Lelouch, then perhaps there is something more to him. Megatron turned to his most trusted servant. Soundwave, let us keep this information to ourselves, not even our own soldiers most know of it. Knowing Starscream he would likely do something rather reckless, such as attacking the place of Lelouch's current residence. He may destroy Zero, but I doubt Optimus has all his Autobot forces stationed there. And if in the event he and any other Decepticon were captured, it would run the risk of the Autobots learning what we know of this, and perhaps Lelouch could be useful, very useful. Soundwave nodded in acknowledgement. He would keep this information a secret. Megatron looked at the paused image of Zero's debut as he stood on the shoulder of his greatest enemy. Now then, Optimus, Lelouch, shall we play a game? He questioned aloud with a sinister smile and an evil glimmer in his eyes. Duel of Steel. The blood of the samurai, the Shadow Clan, Shiniboy Steel, these are all the resistance cells that Cornelia has completely wiped out in just a few days. Ratchet pointed to the rest of Team Prime, including Lelouch, as they stood in the Ark's control room, with a holographic map of the area presented on the main screen with red dots representing each of the locations Cornelia has hit. I'll give her credit, she doesn't waste any time. Ironhide commented. Of course she doesn't, Lelouch said. She's not exactly a master strategist, but she is a warrior. Whenever a problem is presented, she always cuts it out immediately. Cornelia's track record prior to Japan is nothing to scoff at either. Fixit added as he looked at some of the data on his personal station. Including the recent defeat of the Middle Eastern Federation, she has never once suffered a defeat. And all her battles come to an end in record time. So what, she's just wiping out every single rebel group she comes across? RC questioned. Like some kind of purge. I don't think so, she's probably looking for me. Well, for Zero anyway. Lelouch pointed out. Yeah, you're pretty much all over the news since that mess with the purebloods. Bulkhead commented. That and I openly challenged Britannian rule by killing a prince, so of course they'd respond with something like this. Lelouch said with a smirk. Why do you sound so happy about that? Ironhide questioned with a raised eyebrow. The fact that Britannia is going to such lengths as to sick the goddess of victory on me is proof that I've got them scared. Lelouch continued to smirk. I think you mean on us. RC stated. We're just as involved in this as you are. I know, you're a vital part of all this. Lelouch said. The way he's talking, it's like we're just cogs in a machine to him. Bumblebee noted silently as Ironhide, Ratchet, RC, and even Bulkhead looked toward Lelouch suspiciously. So what exactly are we gonna do? Fix-It asked. Cornelia is eradicating virtually everything in sight and there doesn't seem to be a pattern to her method. I wouldn't exactly say that. Cliffjumper spoke up. What do you mean? Bumblebee asked. Look at all those locations again. Cliffjumper pointed to the map of Cornelia's recent battles. Now connect the dots, and I mean literally connect the dots, as in draw a line. Ratchet put in a few commands before a red line. That's when the Autobots and Lelouch noticed that there was indeed a pattern, literally connected the dots. It was a near-perfect circle that encompassed the area that represented the Tokyo settlement. Whoa, no way. Bulkhead exclaimed. Exactly, these attacks aren't random. Cliffjumper said. Every single one of them is circling the perimeter of the settlement. Since she's looking for us, she's hitting each possible hiding place we'd be at since our big debut. And it's completely encircled the entire area. Ratchet added. So now that Cornelia's looked all over the perimeter, RC began. She's going to now focus more on inward territory as it appears she has cut off our escape routes. Lelouch finished. Completely unaware that we're not even in Japan right now. So then, it would stand to reason that Cornelia will likely target a major resistance group with the belief that either we are hiding there, or an attempt to draw us out. Optimus theorized. Well, which is the biggest resistance group in that area? Bulkhead asked. Given the intel Ogi provided, he said the biggest group, beside the blood of the samurai, is the Yamato Alliance stationed in the Saitama Ghetto. Ironhide answered as he typed in some of the data on another console on the bridge. But, the Saitama Ghetto is one of the most overpopulated area near the Tokyo settlement. Fix-It quickly added. Not just resistance fighters, but all sorts of people live there. If Cornelia were to attack, countless people will get caught in the crossfire. She doesn't care about that sort of thing. Lelouch pointed out, his face contorting with disgust. No one in Britannia truly does. To them, the people in that ghetto are just lambs for the slaughter, trash to be thrown away. Nothing more. Those damn wannabe cons. Ironhide growled. Speaking of which, don't you think it's weird that we haven't seen any real appearances from the Decepticons? Bulkhead growled. I mean, there isn't even a real news report of them yet. If I had to guess, I would say that Megatron is more than likely using Cornelia and the Britannian forces in Area 11 as a test, to see what we are capable of before finding an appropriate response. Optimus assumed. So he's using Britannia to measure our strength. Lelouch surmised before something of a smirk formed on his face. My father's empire is nothing more than a tool for the Decepticons. That's a bad thing, Lelouch. RC told him. It means the entire empire's resources are at his disposal while we have next to nothing. That's not entirely true. Bumblebee pointed out. We have Ogi and his group with us, not to mention Collins, a force to be reckoned with herself. A couple of soldiers on our side isn't enough to wage a full-scale war, Bumblebee. Ironhide told him. How about instead of focusing on what we don't have, let's focus on what we do have and what we can do with it. Cliffjumper suggested. Cliffjumper is correct, Optimus stated. If our theory is true, and Cornelia will attack the Saitama Ghetto, then we must evacuate it immediately. That took most of the crew by surprise. Evacuate the ghetto? Bulkhead questioned. Optimus, the entire Saitama Ghetto is filled with over 2,000 people. Fix-It told him. Organizing an evacuation like that could take days. And even then, don't you think outside parties would notice countless people leaving the area? Ratchet questioned. It would suggest that we are aware of the enemy's plan and it could provoke them into attacking the evacuating civilians. Not if we do it carefully. Lelouch got everyone's attention. What are you getting at, Lelouch? Cliffjumper asked the former prince. We'll use the ground bridge, he said, surprising most of the group. We'll use the ruined sewers or anything else that's underground to mask ourselves. We can use the ground bridge to send multiple people to Shinjuku all at once, while at the same time, preparing the ghetto itself to be used to our advantage. Why Shinjuku? RC asked. Considering I was recently there, Cornelia wouldn't think I'd be so foolish to return to a place that can be so easily attacked. It's the last place she'd look. Lelouch explained. Well, that actually does make sense. Bumblebee pointed out. Alright, so, what do you think, Optimus? Bulkhead asked their leader. It is a sound strategy. Optimus said. I will not allow more innocent civilians to be caught in the crossfire of our battles. Contact Ogi immediately and see if he is able to get in contact with the Yamato Alliance in Saitama. We need to evacuate everyone as soon as possible. Understood. Ratchet began to type on the communications control to try and get in touch with their only human ally at the moment. In the meantime, Bumblebee, escort Lelouch back to Ashford. Lelouch, we'll contact you once we know whether or not our suspicions are proven true. Optimus told the young exiled prince and his current guardian. Got it, Lelouch said as Bumblebee nodded. He stepped down a ladder onto the ground where Bumblebee transformed into his vehicle mode, allowing Lelouch to step in before driving off. Ironhide sighed. I said it before, Optimus, I'll say it again. I don't trust Lelouch right now. And it's not just because of his motives, it's his ego. I'm with Ironhide on this. RC agreed. He's getting too cocky and full of himself. I'll admit, Lelouch is a strategic genius, and he has every reason to hate Britannia, but he's letting a few victories get to his head. I will have to agree, Optimus. Ratchet added as well. All the power and strategy amounts to nothing if you allow your pride to get the better of you. That being said, it's only a matter of time till he slips up and makes a big mistake, and we have to bail him out. Ironhide finished. Deep down, Optimus knew they were right. Though Lelouch was good at his core, he was allowing his pride to get the better of him, and maybe right now, he may see the Autobots as a means to an end, but if they can help guide him and get through to him, he may end up becoming this world's greatest, if not only, hope. Believe me, I am aware of Lelouch's flaws. Optimus acknowledged. However, given both his Geass as well as his knowledge of Britannia, not to mention his strategic intellect as you mentioned, he is also a valuable ally. So the kid's got some issues, nobody's perfect. Cliffjumper said as he stood with Bulkhead. I'm a little surprised you guys are so alright with him. RC commented. Look, we'll admit, he's a morally complex guy. Bulkhead said. But, Bees also told us what he's like at home. He does care about his sister. Not to mention he cares about Suzaku too, despite the guy being on the wrong side. Cliffjumper added. So you guys can't really say he's all bad. No, he isn't all bad. Ironhide admitted. But he does have the potential to become a second Megatron. That's why we're here, Bulkhead said. If he's with us, then we can show him how to work the right way. RC, Ratchet, and Ironhide exchanged glances. Though they were aware of the concerns regarding of Lelouch, they weren't ignorant of the more positive aspects of his character as well. So they were willing to at least listen and maybe give him a chance. But still, the way he's acting right now, it's only a matter of time till he makes a mistake, a pretty big one that could end up costing lives. RC commented. You don't think Lelouch would kill any of us, do you? Fix-It asked with worry. No, I don't think that. RC assured. But I do think that if he doesn't think clearly, he may make a mistake that he will end up regretting. Optimus finished. Exactly. RC confirmed. Though the bots each had different opinions regarding Lelouch, they also agreed on a number of things, and Optimus was aware of the positive and negative aspects. So, for the time being, he will be keeping an eye on Lelouch, while at the same time, giving him enough space as to not have him think he's a tool for them to use. However, he will also see to it that Lelouch is aware that they aren't tools for him either. Just after night had fallen, Optimus had come into contact with Ogi and informed him and his group about the possibility of Saitama being attacked, so he in turn contacted the group known as the Yamato Alliance. However, this group appeared to be a bit more stubborn than expected, and due to Ogi's more passive nature, it was difficult for him to talk to them. That all changed however when Optimus and the rest of the Autobots themselves arrived. Upon the sight of the sentient giants that took down the purebloods on national television, All doubts from the leaders of the Yamato Alliance came to a halt and the conjoined group immediately began to evacuate all the citizens. They had to be extra careful, despite it being nighttime. The citizens were all moved to the sewers and any other form of underground passageways that would conceal them. Due to the large population, they all were moved in several smaller groups to different locations throughout the ghetto before a ground bridge portal opened up that sent all the civilians to Shinjuku, the last place where anyone would think to look. It took most of the night, but with the help of the Autobots working with both the Yamato Alliance and Kuzuki Resistance Group, the ghetto had been completely evacuated. Now all they had to do was wait for when they believed Cornelia Lee Britannia, the infamous goddess of victory, would attack. The next day, Tokyo Settlement Royal Palace. It's a 7th-generation nightmare frame, making its abilities far greater than normal. Lloyd explained to Princess Cornelia his most prized invention, hoping this would allow him to use it in battle far more often. I understand the Lancelot's pilot is an 11. Cornelia said. That's correct, an honorary Britannian. However, I am promoting this man from private to warrant officer. Cornelia said immediately. That should satisfy him. I'm trying to win without relying too much on the numbers. To win, you say? Lloyd questioned with an amused smile. Do you really think you can actually win against those Autobots? Cornelia narrowed her eyes. Are you doubting my abilities, Aspund? Lloyd didn't lose his odd smile. No, of course not. I'm only saying it's best not to underestimate them. After all, they made the purebloods look like novice pilots, not to mention one of them was actually able to go on par with the Lancelot. My forces and I are not the purebloods. Cornelia stated firmly. I can promise that neither they nor Zero have ever faced anything like me before. Well, good luck, Your Majesty. Lloyd gave a mocking bow, much to Cornelia's annoyance. She found his indifference to be grating, but she couldn't deny his technical genius. Oh, while we're on the subject, you by any chance, wouldn't happen to know a way for me to get in touch with those Decepticons? I would love to see what makes these Transformers tick. You'll have to take it up with them. She told him as she began to walk away. Megatron, I don't know the full story, but your assistance will be completely unnecessary. You may provide us with valuable intel on our new enemies, but I will be the one who destroys them. I don't need your help. Meanwhile, Cornelia's younger sister, Euphemia Lee Britannia, sat in her own personal office with a gloom look on her face. Those who risk their lives on the battlefield are the ones who deserve to rule. I understand the theory, sister. But still. This was among the many things she actually disliked the current regime of Britannia. It is that sort of belief that cost her 3 of her own beloved siblings, one of whom actually resorted to starting a massacre. What could any gain from all this violence and bloodshed? Upon thinking that, she immediately recalled something Megatron himself said. Should your Britannia choose to accept us, we will not only aid you in righting this world of the Autobots who threaten it, but also work with your father, Charles Z. Britannia, in bringing peace and order to this chaotic and broken world. Those were the words Megatron told her upon their first meeting. However, something in Megatron's eyes told her otherwise. Britannia preached the same sort of thing, and yet they sought to bring order through violence and killing. It would seem there was another person she feared as much as her father, perhaps even more so. Special Corps Headquarters. Suzaku was working on some schoolwork on an elevated platform by the Lancelot with Cecile by his side. Sorry you have to sit here, watching me do my homework. Suzaku apologized sincerely. Oh, don't worry about it. Cecile said. You never attended a regular school before, so it can't be avoided. The guys on the student council are helping me too, but it's still hard. Suzaku said as he read a textbook. Cecile gave a slight giggle. To be perfectly honest with you, I've been a little bit worried. It's supposed to be a liberal school, but I was afraid you weren't fitting in well. Me too, I was expecting that. Suzaku explained. But I happened to run into an old friend there and he smoothed everything out for me. Be sure you never take that friend for granted. Cecile told him. If your friendship continues, your reunion won't have been mere coincidence, it will have been predestined. Okay. Suzaku said with a smile before it faded slightly. Hey, Miss Cecile. If it's all right for me to ask, what exactly do you think of all this? All these transforming alien robots. The Autobots and Decepticons. Cecile looked in seriousness. Well, if I'm being honest, a part of me is actually quite amazed. Honestly, transforming metal aliens, how can that not be exciting? Yeah, I felt the same sort of way when I first saw them. Suzaku said in honesty, though he had mixed feelings about them fighting Britannia. He understood their reasoning, but surely there had to be a better way without resorting to violence. But again, that's just a part of my opinion. Cecile continued as her smile faded. The rest of me feels rather terrified. Suzaku looked in surprised as she continued. Not just for their size and power, but that Megatron character specifically. Just looking at him, let's just say I'd much rather avoid talking with him again in the future. Suzaku understood why. Even he felt intimidated just from being around the leader of the Decepticons. But, maybe if Britannia can change, perhaps there was hope for the Decepticons as well. He wasn't going to judge them right away without first seeing them in action, but at the same time, he wasn't naive enough to accept them with open arms. He would just have to tread carefully. Seeing how somber the mood became, Cecile tried to lighten things up. Anyway, would you like to try one? She offered him a tray of rice balls. Thank you. I will. He was a little surprised but took a bite of one anyway, though his eyes widened in surprise. The rice ball wasn't bad, but the flavoring was unexpected. There's jam in here. Yes, I just happened to get some lovely blueberries. Alright everyone. Lloyd walked in and began to announce to everyone in the room. Pack it up. Pack it up. We're done for today. Don't do any more. Hip, hip hooray. That's all folks. Suzaku looked a bit in surprise but Cecile gave him an apologetic smile. She'd felt bad now that he'd have to put up with Lloyd's antics. Go to school. Classes may be over for the day, but it's still important to meet your friends and have a social life too. Ashford Academy, Student Council Room. Colin and Shirley were putting together a cat tree for the stray cat that the student council took in after that whole mess a few days ago. They even named the cat Arthur. Shirley was setting up the tree itself while Colin was getting some supplies out of a box. Say, can I ask you something important? Shirley asked her. Sure, what is it? Colin responded. Colin, are you hiding something from us? Shirley questioned, surprising Colin. If it's something too personal. No, what are you talking about? Colin questioned, trying to keep up her sickly facade. You can tell me, I promise I won't be upset or anything. Shirley said. Are you going out with Lulu? Colin's face was completely applaud as she shot to her feet in surprise. What would make you think that? Well, I've seen you two together and, you were trying so hard to catch the cat before. Because I didn't want to be kissed by some random pervert. Colin exclaimed. Principal's office. But an arranged marriage is so. Millie talked over the phone with her grandfather, the principal, sitting at the desk. I understand how much you want to re-establish the Ashford family, but mother, it's just that. The Saitama ghetto is completely surrounded. Darlton informed Cornelia as the two of them, Guilford, and several other officers and soldiers were stationed in her personal mobile base while all of Cornelia's forces, including multiple Sutherlands, tanks, foot soldiers, and aircraft, had completely encircled the perimeter of said ghetto, as per her orders. The Yamato Alliance's hideout is located somewhere in here. Half the people in this neighborhood are cooperating with them. So if we proceed now, what'll be the effect on production? Cornelia asked. Primary sector output should decrease by 0.2%. Darlton answered. Within expectations you mean? All right. She turned her gaze to a trio of officers as they bowed. All of you here participated in the Shinjuku disaster, is that correct? Yes, and we're indebted to you, Princess Cornelia, for your mercy. One officer said. That's not what I'm asking. Cornelia raised her voice. Do you think the conditions are similar? A small smile curved on her face. To those in Shinjuku. Outside Cornelia's mobile base, Dreadwing stood with a pair of Viacon troopers as well. So, when are we going in? One Viacon asked. We will not, unless Princess Cornelia says otherwise. Dreadwing informed him. But Lieutenant Dreadwing, sir. The second Viacon protested. We serve Megatron, not some stuck-up human. And Lord Megatron informed us to only observe and intervene only should Princess Cornelia tell us. Dreadwing insisted. But, that is final. Dreadwing raised his voice to silence any further protests. Military authorities report that they have surrounded the Saitama ghetto, a known hiding place for terrorists. An emergency news report broadcasted throughout the Tokyo settlement. Viceroy Cornelia is also on the scene, and entry to that area is restricted. This reached every television and radio, including the one built into Bumblebee's vehicle mode, as he remained parked outside the clubhouse at Ashford Academy. Immediately he contacted Optimus, Lelouch, and even Ratchet on board the Ark. "Hey, if any of you are near a TV or radio right now, it looks like our little theory is right." Inside Lelouch's personal room, Cece laid on Lelouch's bed as she looked at some of the coupons and reward points for Pizza Hut as she saw him walk into the room with the phone to his ear. Of course, all these years and Cornelia is still achingly predictable. Lelouch said over the phone as he recalled all the years he trounced her in chess during his childhood. "So, is everything all set?" "Yes, the Saitama ghetto has been completely evacuated," Optimus informed. "Both Oji's group and the Yamato Alliance are on standby with what nightmares we've recovered. All of which are Sutherland's." "And Colin, is she there?" Lelouch asked. It made sense. Colin was pretty much the best pilot in the whole group, possibly out of all the resistance fighters in Japan. Even if she was in a run-down Glasgow, she was still a force to be reckoned with. Ogi is already making contact with her. RC will pick her up from the academy and will arrive via ground bridge. Her Glasgow is already prepared and waiting. Optimus replied. "Don't you think it's rather odd that Cornelia is announcing her attack on Saitama over the news?" Fix-It asked from the Ark. "She is certainly losing the element of surprise. More likely she's trying to provoke us," Ratchet assumed. "Too bad for her, we already guessed what she was up to," Bumblebee noted. "Alright, Bumblebee and I will be there soon," Lelouch said. "Sit tight and remain out of sight till then." "Understood," Optimus said before everyone hung up. It appears that a full-scale assault will be launched in 2 hours. Consequently, the news continued to report as it was seen from the main screen onboard the Nemesis with Megatron, Soundwave, and Seeker Trio observing. "They're announcing when they're about to attack?" Skywarp questioned. "Wow, looks like Cornelia's the dumbest of the royal family. Which says a lot coming from you." Thundercracker mumbled toward him. "It is not a matter of lack of intelligence, Skywarp," Megatron told him, "but rather they are trying to provoke the Autobots as well as Zero into showing their faces." Starscream smirked. "Those fools always fight for the weak, that is what makes them so pathetically predictable. I shall prepare a strike team immediately." "No," Megatron told him, "we will not be taking part in this battle." Naturally the Seeker Trio looked in surprise. "Lord Megatron, do you believe that to be wise?" "I know Dreadwing is down there, but just him," Thundercracker questioned before his leader interrupted him. "The objective of this exercise is not to eliminate Optimus, but to see what he is capable of." Megatron explained. "I want to know if he still posses the same fight he had in our last encounter, if he has grown stronger or not. That, and I wish to see what Zero is capable of myself." That earned a scoff from Starscream. "Master, I can understand wanting to take caution from Optimus, but why Zero? After all, he is only a human. A human whom Optimus has taken quite the interest in. Otherwise, why would he allow this Zero character to stand beside him as an equal?" Megatron continued to explain. "Perhaps this exercise will show us. Or we could just use the Nemesis and blow the whole place to bits," Skywarp said. "And risk losing sight of our greatest foes amidst the chaos." Megatron shouted. "No, we need precision, not a blunt instrument. I will reference your blunder with the purebloods as a prime example." "But Master," Starscream tried to protest. "That is final. I will not hear another word of this," Megatron exclaimed, causing all three of them to falter back. "Am I clear?" "Yes, Lord Megatron." Thundercracker was the first to bow. "Crystal clear." Skywarp bowed as well. Starscream gave a low growl as he reluctantly bowed. "Your wish is our command." "Good." Megatron then turned toward the main screen as Soundwave plugged in his tentacles into the main console that projected an image of the Saitama ghetto, being broadcasted live by Laserbeak whom Soundwave previously deployed. Zero is a criminal with a flair for the theatrics, and it would seem that for some reason, that these Autobots apparently value the lives of the weak, such as the numbers. Cornelia began to explain to her soldiers and officers, including Dreadwing who was listening via the comms. "I've recreated the same conditions that existed in Shinjuku in order to draw them all out. If they really are the overconfident type, I predict that they'll come here to try and kill me. Viceroy Cornelia, forgive my impertinence, but if you are truly trying to replicate those conditions, then why is it Warrant Officer Kurugi here with the Lancelot? Dreadwing asked via the communications. I will have no need for that messily 11. Cornelia answered. And you, Dreadwing, are here merely to observe. If you have any intelligence to provide for the Autobots, I will listen to what you have to say, but that is all. You will not interfere in this fight, do you understand? You wish to capture Zero in order to avenge your brother. I understand that feeling all too well, so I will let you handle this. That being said, I will also stand by should you need my assistance. Dreadwing told her. At the same time, Dreadwing looked toward the ghetto that lay before him. He understood Cornelia's motivation, both her personal goal to avenge her brother as well as her loyalty to Britannia. Dreadwing himself understood both those feelings as he was steadfast loyal to Megatron and had a desire to avenge Skyquake as well. Yet, he couldn't help but shake this feeling. All these sentient beings in the ghetto are going to be slaughtered. True, many of which were enemies likely aiding the Autobots, but some were just bystanders who had nothing to do with him. That was something that didn't quite sit well with him. Really? Already? Colin asked subtly on her cell phone, not to try and let Shirley hear what she and Ogie were talking about. Okay, I'm on my way. She hung up. I gotta go. Was that Lulu on the phone? Shirley asked nervously as she held Arthur. Colin growled. She was going to get the point across. No, look, for the last time, there is nothing going on between Lelouch and I. She was about to leave when the door opened to reveal the surprised faces of both Suzaku and Rai. Excuse me. She walked past then and out in the hallway. Both the nervous teens walked in to see Shirley looking a bit upset. What was all that about? Rai asked. It's none of your damn business. Shirley exclaimed, her cheeks being red with tears ready to fall, much to the duo's surprise and confusion. Colin walked outside the clubhouse to see the vehicle form of RC, complete with a holographic driver, waiting for her by the parking lot. Sure took your sweet time. RC commented as Colin got on. Just some high school crap, forget about it. She said as RC revved up and drove off campus before a ground bridge portal opened up in front of them and they entered. Lelouch was packing a suitcase with the soldier uniform he stole from Shinjuku as he prepared to leave. You're not falling for the enemy's provocation, are you? CC asked him. Everybody's waiting for me though. Lelouch said. Besides, there's something I'd like to ask Cornelia personally. Destroying Britannia, fighting the Decepticons, or discovering who murdered your mother? Which is more important to you? CC asked. All three are of equal importance. Lelouch replied. The royal family members are competing with each other to see who will become the next ruler. Or rather, they're being forced to fight, by that man, who in turn, is a pawn himself. But the very thing you hate, is the same thing that makes Britannia strong. CC said. And if the Decepticons are the ones who made Britannia what it is now, then it seems they too embody that same philosophy. The one most fit to rule, is the one left standing. Exactly. Lelouch said as his voice lowered to a growl. The weak ones are cast aside, while the strong thrive. Britannia is that kind of nation, and so are the Decepticons, it would seem. Survival of the fittest is the most basic rule of all. CC said. If that's true, then what happens to Nunnally? Lelouch exclaimed as he slammed his suitcase closed. Should I simply give up on my sister just because she's frail? I refused to accept that. Britannia, Decepticons, the Emperor, Megatron, I don't give a damn. I'll wipe out whoever promotes that sort of world myself. No matter what it takes. Lelouch was about to leave but looked in surprise to see CC blocking his way with a pistol pointed at him. You can't go, Lelouch. CC insisted sternly. You need to fulfill your part of our bargain, so I won't have you dying before that. Notice that what you're saying and what you're doing are contradictory. Lelouch told her, considering she was pointing a gun at him. Oh, I won't kill you. I'm merely going to shoot you in the leg to quiet you down. CC told him. Lelouch smirked. Now I get it, you're unable to use Geass yourself, aren't you? That comment caused CC's eyes to shake slightly. But it's not just that, is it? You're unable to form contracts with any of the Autobots, are you? Probably for the same reason my Geass won't work on Cybertronians. Honestly, I've never tried the later, so I can't say whether that's true or not. CC said. But there's still a chance that it's impossible. Lelouch continued to smirk. You need me alive. That being said, Lelouch pulled out a pistol of his own. CC wasn't impressed. Do you honestly think you can threaten me with a gun? Lelouch's smirk hadn't vanished. Yes, I do. He didn't point it at CC, but rather be pointed it at his own head, causing CC's own look to fade into one of uncertainty. Until I met you in the Autobots, I was dead, an impotent corpse existing behind a false guise of life, a life in which I did nothing real. Day to day, I merely went through the motions of living, as though I if a zombie, and I always had the feeling I was gradually dying. If I am condemned to go back to that, then I'd rather. He was ready to pull the trigger. Stop it, CC exclaimed as she lowered her pistol, causing Lelouch to lower his as well as he smirked in victory. I see now, it's a life without meaning, and a life like that. Lelouch began to walk past her. I have no intention of getting caught or dying. I doubt the Autobots would so easily abandon their only real partner. He said as he walked out of the room. Yeah, provided you don't let your ego get to you and do something stupid. Several Britannian foot soldiers and a few tanks continued to march through the empty Saitama ghetto. They continued to march as they looked around the area for any sign of a terrorist group, but after 20 minutes, all they found were just a few stray dogs and cats, nothing more. It was as if the entire ghetto was a ghost town with the soldiers being the only humans in there. Sector 2 is completely clear, no sign of the enemy. Sector 4 reporting in, it's all empty. No terrorists or civilians of any kind. Those were among the many reports Cornelia received in her mobile base since the operation started, her face lined with slight disappointment as Darlton looked in curiosity. This is odd. His eyes narrowed slightly. Yes, you would have think we would have seen something by now. Guilford agreed. But how is this possible? An entire ghetto population just can't vanish overnight. One of the Shinjuku officers exclaimed. Before Cornelia could speak, Dreadwing made contact with her. Princess Cornelia, if I may. Go ahead, Dreadwing. Cornelia acknowledged. I believe that it may have been possible that the enemy has learned of your operation. Dreadwing informed. That's impossible, Guilford stated. All personnel here have been sworn to secrecy. This plan wasn't leaked to the media till recently. That may be true. Dreadwing began to explain. However, I have noticed a pattern to your method. You eliminated all the resistance groups surrounding the settlement, not just to stomp out terrorism, but to eliminate any possible sanctuary for the Autobots or Zero. Once you have discovered they had not gone there, you closed in on the largest resistance group within the settlement, knowing that the enemy was still hiding nearby. You figured that out all by yourself? Cornelia asked with a raised eyebrow. I did, and I could figure it out. Then it is more than likely Optimus Prime has learned of it as well. Dreadwing answered. He is both a cunning warrior and a brilliant strategist. That, and as you previously said, the Autobots do appear to care for those one would consider weak. So if Optimus could theorize what your plan was, it is more than possible that he arranged for the ghetto to be evacuated and spare its populace of the slaughter to come. If that's the case, then we may have underestimated this, Optimus Prime. Darlton said with a low growl as he gave a slight begrudging respect to Optimus for anticipating Cornelia's plan. Should we fall back then, Your Majesty? He asked his princess. No, Cornelia insisted. I could honestly care less about some measly 11s. But if Zero and the Autobots went to all this effort, then I can only assume that they are simply waiting for me somewhere inside the ghetto. What do you think, Dreadwing? It is possible, Viceroy. Dreadwing said. I cannot speak for Zero, but I doubt Prime would make such a grand entrance beforehand and choose to go back into hiding so soon. He is many things, but Optimus Prime is no coward. Cornelia smirked. She may still have her victory yet. Send in the nightmares. Flush them out. As you wish. Darlton then began to order all their soldiers. Attention all forces. Commence eradication of the Saitama ghetto. With that one order, all nightmares were deployed from the mobile base as they and all surrounding nightmares and soldiers from around the perimeter began to invade the ghetto. They opened fire and began to destroy multiple buildings in an attempt to flush out the enemy. However, there was one group, besides Dreadwing and his Viacons, that did not advance. Behind Cornelia's mobile base was what remained of the purebloods, including Jeremiah, Valletta, and Kuel. I don't understand. Why doesn't Princess Cornelia order us to attack as well? Jeremiah questioned. She won't because, Orange, is here. Kuehl spoke in disgust towards Jeremiah. Just be thankful you haven't been disposed of. You're to blame for this, it's due to you our careers are over. You're wrong. Jeremiah exclaimed as his eyes shook with fury and frustration. Zero's the one who did it. You have no one but yourselves to blame for your current positions. Dreadwing stated as he marched towards the purebloods. They all backed slightly at the sight of him. Not only was he physically imposing, but he proved strong enough to eliminate them as he disabled the rogue soldiers Kuehl enlisted to try and assassinate Jeremiah beforehand. You framed an innocent man for a crime he did not commit simply because of his position as the son of Japan's previous ruler. Dreadwing continued. You used the death of a member of the royal family, whom you have sworn your allegiance toward, to pursue your own personal agenda. You have betrayed your own empire. How dare you? Kuehl exclaimed. You dare to doubt our loyalty. You know nothing of loyalty or honor. Dreadwing stated as he glared at them. Not even to yourselves. You turned on each other like a pack of beasts simply for that orange rumor. You, Jeremiah growled, as he couldn't muster a response while Dreadwing leaned in close. Were up to me, I would end each of you here and now. Most of the purebloods backed away in fear, but it was for nothing as Dreadwing eased himself. But that is not my call to make. Just be assured that I will be watching you very closely. Any further sign of a betrayal and you will answer to me. Dreadwing walked away as several of the purebloods glared at him considering he had just destroyed whatever little pride they had left with mere words. Jeremiah looked as though he was about to have an aneurysm as Dreadwing had told him that he had no honor or loyalty whatsoever. That had him think of the late imperial consort Marianne v Britannia as well as her children, whom he failed to protect. However, Valletta had other thoughts going through her mind. Though she despised Dreadwing's accusation, she remembered something back in Shinjuku. She remembered seeing a young boy with black hair standing alongside a certain yellow and black car, which she was certain was one of the Autobots. If that student was with it, could he be working with them? Bumblebee drove underneath a ruined building out of sight as the disguised Lelouch got out. Despite being well hidden, the two could see the destruction being unleashed. Wow, good thing we got everyone out beforehand. Bumblebee commented. It still makes me sick how far Britannia is willing to go. It's always the same, Lelouch said. Cornelia replaces Clovis, yet Britannia never changes. I doubt it ever will. So you think Suzaku was wrong? Bumblebee asked. With someone like my father in power, changing Britannia for the better is all but impossible. Lelouch said as he began to climb his way towards the upper level. I'll contact you in Optimus when I'm ready. For now, just stay here. Got it. Bumblebee remained in his vehicle mode as he watched Lelouch leave his sight. The young exiled prince walked on an upper level of a ruined building to where he was visible, just as he wanted. In less than a few seconds, a Sutherland shot its Harken to pull itself up on the same level as him. What unit are you from? Your unit name and ID, soldier. The pilot demanded, falling for Lelouch's disguise. I'm Rodario Torres, sir, with 3rd Reconnaissance Company. Lelouch lied as he pulled out a random data disk he got from his room. I obtained this item from one of the terrorists. Could I please ask you to transmit to headquarters for me, sir? The pilot opened his nightmares hatched and stood up. A disk, huh? Well, I still need to verify your ID first. Lelouch smirked. Right, understood. He activated his Geass. But before we do that, sir, I'd like to borrow your Sutherland, so hand it over. The sigil flew into the pilot's eyes and rewrote his brainwave patterns as a pair of familiar red rings formed and he was under Lelouch's control. Sure, no problem. Just take good care of it. Thank you, I really appreciate it. Lelouch said as the entranced pilot stepped out, allowing Lelouch to step in. Once he did, he accessed his own COM-N link he set up with the Autobots. This is Zero, Optimus, do you read me? He asked as he drove his newly acquired Sutherland down the building, close to where Bumblebee was hiding. I read you, Zero. Optimus informed. Everyone is prepared. Right. All groups report in. Zero ordered. This is Alpha Team, reporting from Sector 1. RC reported in, as she was ready with both Cliffjumper and even Colin in her Glasgow, all three hiding underneath a building. Ready to get this whole thing rolling. Cliffjumper commented. Beta team ready to rock and roll. Bulkhead reported in as he was with Tamaki and a few other rebels, all of which had their own group of hijacked Sutherlands. Delta team in position. Ironhide called in as he too was hiding with his own squad in the ruined sewers of the ghetto. Communications team is on standby. Ratchet reported from the Ark as he and Fixit maintained the communications frequency as well as providing an emergency escape route should the need arise. The ground bridge is also ready should we need to evacuate. Fixit added. We are ready to proceed on your mark, Zero. Optimus said as he stood in a large space within a ruined building with Ogi inside a Sutherland right beside him. Stand by. Zero instructed. Wait for my signal. As they waited, Ogi couldn't help but feel a bit nervous, something the leader of the Autobots noticed. Ogi, is something wrong? Well, it's just, we're about to go up against Cornelia. I mean, I've heard all she's done, but, is there a chance we can get out of this? There is, Optimus assured him. We were able to drive back Clovis forces in Shinjuku, and I have no intention of backing down no. What about the Decepticons? Are they gonna show up? Ogi asked. If Megatron wanted to become involved in this, he would have already eradicated the entire ghetto by now. Optimus said, surprising Ogi. The fact that he, nor any other Decepticons, are partaking in this suggests that at the moment he is only watching to see what his enemy is capable of. That didn't really make Ogi feel any better. Do you really think we stand a chance against him? I mean, from everything you said, it sounds like this Megatron guy is even worse than Britannia. And if he's taking it easy right now. Ogi. Optimus began. Let me ask you, why did you choose to fight against Britannia before? Ogi looked in surprise as Optimus continued. It is no secret you are afraid, as are much of your comrades. You could have easily chosen to become honorary Britannians and avoided all this fighting, yet you choose to take a stand. Why? The leader of the Kuzuki resistance sighed with a sad smile. Yeah well, the truth is, I'm kind of following a friend of mine. Naoto, Colin's older brother, was the leader of this group before I was. Though he really wasn't a fighter, all we did at first was just steal food and supplies and give to them to the people who lived in ghettos like these. I guess you could say we were like Robin Hood. He even insisted that we didn't carry any guns, no one got hurt. But, we got caught and, well, Naoto bought time for me and everyone else to escape. 3 days later, he was executed publicly. Optimus' optics widened in shock. You should have seen Colin's face. Ogi continued. She loved her brother more than anything, and Naoto was my best friend since childhood. He didn't hurt anyone, in fact, all he did was help people. But Britannia killed him just for helping, the numbers. What kind of world is like that where you're punished just for helping people? Exclamation mark quote. He clenched his fists in anger. I get some people are afraid and don't wanna fight, so they become honorary Britannians to save themselves. I get it, I don't blame them. But I can't do that. I can't be part of a world like that. So that's why I'm fighting. Why Colin, Tamaki, and all the others are fighting. We can't let Britannia get away with all this. I'm scared, hell I'd even say I'm terrified, but, I stand my ground, because that's what Naoto would do. Optimus looked at Ogi with a serious expression on his face. He and Colin had lost just as much as Lelouch had, they'd had just as much reason to stand against Britannia. Optimus knew Ogi was afraid, even Ogi himself knew that, but he stood his ground anyway despite the odds. That is real bravery. Ogi, you have just now proven how strong you are. Optimus told him, causing Ogi to look at him in surprise. You are aware of how much the odds are against you, yet still choose to make a stand anyway and avoid taking the easy way out, because you know Britannia is wrong. You choose to fight, not out of hate, but for what your friend believed in. And that is why we have chosen to fight with you, because we fight for the same thing, to create a better world. So let us create that world together. Ogi looked at Optimus, not believing what he had just heard. Anyone else would have probably called out Ogi for being scared, but Optimus just told him he was strong and would stand beside him all the way, to fight for what his own friend believed in, despite not even knowing him. Did Zero feel this way? Is that why he's working with the Autobots too? Despite that, Ogi couldn't help but smile. Optimus, thank you, Ogi said with a smile as the leader of the Autobots gave a returning smile. Just then, Zero chimed in. This is it. All units move in now. With that order, and the speech Optimus just gave, Ogi gave an eager smile. Well, shall we get started? Yes, we shall, Optimus said as his faceplate activated. Two Sutherlands drove through the ruined street, as they had encountered zero resistance. No response at all. One pilot said, "These Autobot guys might just turn out to be a no-show. Probably went off to whatever world they came from." The second pilot commented. Excuse me." The two Sutherlands turned around as the pilots looked in surprise to Cliffjumper casually walking toward them. "I got separated from the tour group. Does anyone know where I can find Princess Cornelia's base? We got an Autobot," one pilot exclaimed as they both pointed their nightmare rifles at them. "Stop right there, robotic freak." Cliffjumper maintained his smile as he raised his hands. Whoa, don't worry boys. I'm not gonna fight ya. They are." He pointed behind himself as he ducked, just as RC in vehicle mode jumped over him. She transformed and pulled out her arm blades as she slashed in midair to decapitate one Sutherland. Before the second one could react, it was torn apart by a pair of slash Harkins from Colin's red Glasgow as she sped onto the scene. Cliffjumper gave an impressed whistle. "You know, you ladies make quite the team." Lelouch smirked inside his Sutherland as it stood at the top of one building. He observed the radar on his screen. "Now, shall I drag Cornelia out or make an opening?" he asked himself before accessing communications. "Beta team, move in now. Take M down." Tamaki shouted as he shot with his Sutherland's rifle along with several other friendly Sutherlands, blasting away 3 of them as the remaining 4 in the group tried to shoot back. However, Tamaki's attack created an opening for Bulkhead to drive up in vehicle mode, and once he was close enough, he transformed into his robot mode and spread his arms out to knock the Sutherlands back. "I couldn't go all out on you guys back in Shinjuku," Bulkhead said. But now that our cover isn't necessary anymore, both his hands turned into wrecking balls. "It's time to kick some tailpipe." Bulkhead smashed his right wrecking ball onto a downed Sutherland, crushing it just as the other 3 stood up and attempted to open fire. But Bulkhead charged, and with his large size, he was able to swipe his arms to knock down 2 of them before smashing them into the ground. The last one tried to back away, but Bulkhead already turned his right arm into a large energon cannon, which he shot and blew off the Sutherland's head, taking it out of commission. "Hell yeah, now that's what I'm talking about." Tamaki cheered. "Delta team, enemy unit 30 meters ahead." Zero ordered over the comms as Ironhide ran out from his cover with a flank of rebel Sutherlands on his left and right. They all opened fire with nightmare rifles and energon cannons respectively and tore apart the enemy unit, leaving only 2 left as Ironhide came in and delivered an uppercut that knocked it into the air, before grabbing the Sutherland by the foot and using it as a makeshift weapon to bash down the second remaining Sutherland. "Piece of tin," Ironhide commented as he held the torn leg of the Sutherland he just took out of commission. "Alpha team, advance forward. Keep in mind of enemy aircraft," Zero instructed. Colin shot her Glasgow/Harkins from behind cover to take down an enemy helicopter as RC drove along a rooftop before jumping over a second aircraft. While in midair, she transformed and shot from above it to destroy it before opening fire with her energon blasters on a 3 Sutherlands below her. She was able to take out the one in the middle, which she also landed on before pulling out her arm blades to cut down the one her right before flipping over the strike of the one on the left and landing behind to deliver a sweep of her feet to knock it down before slicing at its throat area to disable it. Cliffjumper also ran out of some cover on a group of 4 Sutherlands, opening fire with his energon blasters. He easily tore through the one up front before grabbing the one behind and using it as a shield to block the /Harkin strike of the 3rd Sutherland. Cliffjumper was able to discard the shield before charging forward and grabbing the Sutherland by the shoulder and flipping it over his own shoulder before smashing its head into the ground. The last one tried to roll in and strike him with a tonfa, but he was able to catch the weapon as he ripped off the last Sutherland's arm and delivered a punch to knock its head off, disabling it. Colin watched in awe at their display of power. "Amazing, they make those Sutherlands look like wind-up tin soldiers," she voiced aloud. "Optimus, you have a large unit heading in your direction," Zero informed him. A large group of tanks and Sutherlands opened fire on Optimus as he drove towards them in his vehicle mode, but their line was broken on both sides of their flank. From the right flank, Ogi and a group of Sutherlands from the Yamato Alliance shot through a wall of a ruined building to take out 2 enemy Sutherlands on the sides, while Bumblebee drove down on the left flank and rammed a Sutherland's side before transforming and opening fire with his Energon gun, destroying a tank and a Sutherland in the process. With the enemy line broken, Optimus transformed and ran forward. Using the momentum gathered from his vehicle mode's speed, he delivered a punch to a Sutherland that sent it flying at least 100 yards before crashing hard. He then ran forward and picked up a tank with one hand, before shooting with his Energon blaster into its belly to disable it before flipping it over. His other hand converted into another Energon blaster as he shot forward and tore through the last 3 Sutherlands as though they were tissue paper. Beta Team, take out the bridge. Zero ordered. Bulkhead drove underwater and used his Energon blasters emerging into his vehicle mode's sides and was able to destroy one of the support beams, causing the entire bridge to collapse as the whole Britannian unit fell into the water and got crushed by the debris. Dreadwing could see explosions from his location right by Cornelia's mobile base. It didn't take a genius to know that Optimus and his team were likely here, more than likely making the Britannian forces look like amateurs. Though he commended them on their bravery, he knew the Autobots outclassed them significantly, and while he wanted to provide his aid, he had strict orders to only observe and intervene only when instructed. He wondered if Cornelia had a plan, and it was possible that she had, considering she planned this attack with the sole purpose of drawing out her enemy, namely Zero. Since it was clear that he and the Autobots were here, it was only a matter of time till she put her plan into motion. Squad 5. Contact lost. Enemy sighted in Sector G47. We have confirmation. It is the Autobots. Not just the Autobots. The terrorists they are helping also appear to be using Sutherlands captured from our own forces. Exactly the same as Shinjuku. One of Clovis' old officers uttered in fear. Is there any sign of Zero yet? No official sighting, but with the Autobots here, there is little doubt. That's enough. Cornelia broke her silence. Order all troops to fall back. Further damage and casualties serve no point. Fall back, one of Clovis' former officers questioned. With all due respect, we can still fight. Another officer exclaimed. We can't fight them like this. Cornelia stated. All forces, fall back behind ghetto perimeter at once. Darlton ordered. Formation doesn't matter. Fall back behind ghetto perimeter at once. Lelouch heard the order from his stolen Sutherland and smirked triumphantly. What? No stomach for it. If I blend in with the retreating units, that'll put me right next to Cornelia. Have I cleared the task at hand already? He contacted the rest of his forces. All teams stand by, the enemy is falling back. Await further orders. Did you guys hear that? Cornelia's falling back. One rebel exclaimed victoriously through the comms. Yeah, take that you Britannian bitch. Tamaki exclaimed. Guess all that goddess of victory stuff doesn't amount to much. Cliffjumper voiced. However, Optimus, Bumblebee, and Ogi looked in concern. That's it. Ogi questioned. She's retreating. She's not coming out here herself. Before either Autobot could respond, Ironhide made contact. Optimus, this doesn't sound like something Cornelia would do. On top of that, we've never once seen her own nightmare here, not even one of her Glaston nights. Yeah, at all those other spots she's hit here in Japan, Cornelia's always led the charge. But now, she didn't. Bumblebee voiced with concern. What did he say? Ogi asked, as he couldn't understand Bumblebee's bleeps. He said this doesn't feel right. Optimus translated. And I agree, something is not right here. Ashford Academy Clubhouse, Lelouch's room. CC casually lay on Lelouch's bed. No, I don't know where the Autobot base is. Guess you'll have to find out for yourself. She then chuckled. You can't fight your own blood, can you? But regardless, that type of person is dangerous, I wonder which path he'll take. She sat up off the bed with an impatient look on her face. I understand, just who do you think I am anyway? Student council room. I see, so Lulu lived here before this became Area 11. Was he a neighbor? Shirley asked Suzaku as he tried to get Arthur to play with a toy, but the cat paid Suzaku no mind. Well, you could say that. Suzaku answered, not revealing any important details. What about you, Shirley? Rai asked as he sat down near her. How long have you known, Lulu? Well, Shirley tried to find an answer. I met him here during our freshman year, but honestly I didn't really like him at first. He had this indifferent impression and the only thing he worked hard at was avoiding hard work. But early in our first year, I happened to see him come upon a traffic accident. Traffic accident? Rai asked as he and Suzaku listened to her. A driver rear-ended another car and was clearly at fault, but he tried to blame it on the elderly owners of the other car. Nobody tried to help them, and then Lelouch got up and walked over to a nearby tow truck waiting at the red light and attached its tow cable to angry driver's car. Once the light turned green, the tow truck drove off with the angry driver's car and dragged it along the road, breaking it down even further. Suzaku looked in surprise while Rai just laughed. Seriously. He continued to laugh. Wow, I wish I could have seen that. Shirley had a slight smile as she actually found it pretty funny too. Lulu didn't do it so he could boast to his buddies or laugh about it later, he did it with the same bored expression he always wears. And that's when I wondered, what's up with this guy? What goes on in his mind? What does he want to do? I really wanted to know, and in the process of finding out. Suzaku smiled. You fell in love with him. Shirley blushed. You think that's what this is? Maybe you're right. Well, I mean, it's kinda obvious, I had a feeling that was the case. Rai said, surprising Shirley. I mean, you even call him Lulu, that's kind of a dead giveaway. He chuckled slightly, causing Shirley's face to turn red. From outside the council room, Millie happened to hear the whole exchange and smiled a bit for Shirley. How dreamy it is to be in love. Her smile faded. Oh, how I wish. Saitama. Lelouch used his stolen Sutherland to slip into a retreating unit as they proceeded towards Cornelia's mobile base. He thought he had this in the bag as he smirked victoriously. Cornelia, you're no match. You'll lose. Cornelia smirked from her throne. Zero and those foolish Autobots are no match for me, I'll win. Most of Clovis' former officers looked in surprise, while Darlton remained unsurprised. Of course, that's why they call Princess Cornelia the goddess of victory. Said goddess, turned her gaze towards her youngest knight. Shall we go then, Guilford my knight? He bowed. It is my pleasure to serve and obey you, my lady. Lelouch appeared to be close to his victory as his Sutherland was with all the others literally right under Cornelia's nose, just a few feet away from her personal transport. Even with my Geass, the normal security leaves it too risky for me to simply stroll in. I guess I'll need to create an opening like I did with Clovis. He then felt his cell phone vibrate and looked in minor surprise at the caller ID. Student council room. But I thought the cat festival meeting was scheduled for tomorrow. Ashford Academy, student council room. Suzaku was on the phone trying to get into contact with Lelouch while Rai and Shirley both sat down with Arthur sleeping on the cat tree. I know Colin said I had it all wrong, but it seemed like she was getting upset in order to fool me. Shirley said. I don't think Colin is that shallow. Rai tried to tell her. I'm sure it was just a misunderstanding. Which is why in this case it's best to simply ask Lelouch directly. Suzaku said as he held the phone. On your behalf, I can ask him how he feels about you. Rai looked in surprise while Shirley's face turned red. What? You'd really do that? Suzaku, I don't really think we should pry. Rai didn't like the idea either as it seemed a bit too personal. Just relax, it'll be fine, but Shirley quickly came up and snatched the phone from him. Are you nuts? No way, she shouted as she dramatically hung up the phone. Lelouch saw the call ended before he could answer and paid it no mind. Oh whatever. Suzaku tried to pick up the phone again as he tried to smile. Oh come on, let me handle this for you. I'll be discreet. I don't want your help. Okay, Shirley shouted with her face being redder than Cliffjumper's paint job. Rai tried to come in between them. Suzaku, if she doesn't want your help, then she doesn't want it. Let's just. As he tried to separate them, his foot tripped on the phone's wire causing him to trip and stumble onto both Shirley and Suzaku, the scuffle knocking down the cat tree and upsetting Arthur a great deal. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't. Rai then realized that he was actually on top of Shirley on the ground, their faces less than an inch apart as her eyes shook. But they were quickly pulled out of it as they heard Suzaku grunting in pain and turned to see Arthur biting down on his hand. Oh, does that hurt much? Shirley asked him. Greatly. Saitama. Lelouch saw Guilford in his Gloucester and a few other Glaston knights depart from the mobile base as he smirked. You're desperate, Cornelia, using your royal guard in such a manner. He opened his communications again. Beta team, re-engage their IFF signal, operate as a Britannian unit. Got it, Tamaki responded. As my decoy, Lelouch thought to himself. Meanwhile, Optimus, Ogie, and Bumblebee laid hidden in their spot as Optimus heard Zero's order, and yet he couldn't shake this feeling. Cornelia is choosing to send her royal guard yet doesn't enter the battle herself. Why would? His optics widened in realization. It was a trap. He quickly accessed his comms again. Tamaki, leave your Sutherland active, but exit the nightmare immediately. What? Are you serious? Ratchet, lock onto all the team's coordinates and prepare for multiple ground bridge extractions. All units, be prepared to fall back immediately. Bumblebee and Cliffjumper looked at Optimus in surprise as he heard several questions and protests over the communicatons. Fall back, one rebel questioned. We can still fight, Colin exclaimed. What's going on, Optimus? Ironhide questioned. We're calling it quits. Cliffjumper also questioned. I believe this may be a trap. Optimus instructed everyone. I will not take any chances without knowing what Cornelia has planned. Ratchet, be prepared to evacuate our forces immediately and send them to Shinjuku. Bulkhead, wait with Tamaki and your team. If it is a trap, then fall back immediately. Though unsure, Bulkhead knew better than to question his leader. Sure, got it. Optimus, are you sure it's a trap? Ogie asked him. It is possible, and I won't risk your lives anymore on the chance that is. Optimus told him. Bumblebee nodded in understanding while Ogie had a serious expression on his face. Cornelia's base. Darlton and the other officers saw the signal being transmitted by the active but abandoned nightmare, though they didn't know it was empty at the moment. One nightmare left transmitting an IFF signal within the city area. Darlton reported. Can't you contact it? One officer asked. Scramble a rescue team. No, destroy it, Cornelia ordered, much to the surprise of a few of the officers, but not Darlton. You can't. He might be a captive of the enemy. I ordered all troops to fall back. Cornelia instructed. I have no use for soldiers who can't follow my orders. You heard the princess. Darlton agreed. Do your duty, even if it costs your life, Cornelia pressed. My subordinates follow that code without question. Bulkhead laid hidden in some rubble in his vehicle mode with Tamaki in the driver's seat as they saw the Sutherland, still transmitting its signal, but empty of all pilots. Hey, you sure about this? Tamaki questioned. Maybe the big guy's just paranoid. No, Optimus is never paranoid. Bulkhead insisted. If he thinks it's a trap, he's usually right. In less than a second, they spotted Guilford leading his Glaston Knight squad as they gunned for the empty Sutherland. They didn't even try contacting the supposed pilot as they pierced their spears into it from all sides, reducing the Sutherland to a pile of scrap metal in less than a second. Whoa, what the hell was that? They'd kill their own guy. Tamaki questioned. Just like a Khan would. Bulkhead said in a low growl as he turned around and drove away from the scene. Doc, Optimus, it was a trap. We're definitely gonna need those ground bridges. The Ark. Understood. Ratchet and Fix-It saw the map of the area as well as the signals of all the nightmares, enemy and friendly, including their fellow Autobots. All teams, prepare for immediate extraction. I am uploading coordinates in each of your nightmares. Fix-It inputted the data in his console at the same time. Don't try and fight them, retreat immediately. We're really retreating? Colin questioned as she rolled her Glasgow down a road with RC and Cliffjumper in their respective vehicle modes right beside her. Can't you just fight these guys? Better to fall back now and come up with a plan for later than going in blindly. RC argued. RC's right, we got no idea what Cornelia has up her sleeve, best to live to fight another day. Cliffjumper agreed. Colin grumbled but saw their logic as a ground bridge portal opened in front of them and they left the ghetto. Lelouch's smirk vanished and his face was evident with shock as he heard Optimus command over the comms. What is going on out there? Zero, we're retreating, Ratchet exclaimed. This whole thing was a trap, we're falling back immediately. What? Lelouch questioned in absolute shock. I can't fall back, I'm right in front of Cornelia. We can still fight. No, we're falling back. This not up for question. Ratchet hung up. Ratchet, Fix-It cut off Lelouch's communications. Ratchet ordered the mini-con, much to his surprise. What? We're abandoning Lelouch. No, we're abandoning him. Ratchet stated. But we can't have two separate orders creating chaos, allowing Cornelia's forces to take advantage. We'll come back for him later, cut him off. Fix it. With a great deal of reluctance, cut off Lelouch's communications from everyone else just as they heard a familiar voice over the comms. So, he ended up doing something stupid after all. CC. How did you get this frequency? Ratchet questioned. Bumblebee gave it to me just in case I needed to be rescued. CC replied. Once you've cleaned up the mess Lelouch made, I'd like to request a ground bridge to the Ark. Something tells me Zero may need a body double. She hung up, much to the surprise of the medic bot and Mini-Con. Well, she is rather odd. Fix-It commented. Odd doesn't even begin to describe it. Ratchet said with a sigh. Ironhide drove in his vehicle mode with several friendly Sutherlands down a ruined street with Guilford close behind them. They tried to shoot their Harkins, but a groundbride portal opened up in front of Ironhide's group. Gun it. Don't turn around. Just go. Ironhide ordered as they entered the portal and it closed just before Guilford could get to them. Damn it. He cursed before contacting his princess. Your Majesty, I believe I made contact with one of the Autobots with a group of terrorists, but he escaped through some form of portal, the same kind Zero used when he and the Autobots first made their appearance. Also, that Sutherland that was transmitting the IFF signal turned out to be empty. It was a decoy. Cornelia's eyes narrowed slightly as she heard Dreadwing contacting her. So this was your plan? The Decepticon questioned. Send out weaker soldiers to soften up the enemy before sending in your royal guard to act as a scalpel and cut them out one at a time. That's part of my plan, Dreadwing. Cornelia responded. If a few of those messily little Autobots choose to run away, that's fine. Turns out they were cowards all along, but my real target might just be underneath my nose. Optimus and Bumblebee drove towards the coordinates provided along with Ogie and his Sutherland. Though the Autobot leader stopped shy of the ground bridge portal just as it activated, causing Bumblebee and Ogie to stop. Hey, something wrong Optimus? Ogie asked in concern. Bumblebee, Ogie, return to base. I will stay here. What? But you just said it was a trap. Ogie protested. It's Lelouch, isn't it? Bumblebee asked in bleeps, so Ogie couldn't hear Zero's real name. Indeed. Optimus confirmed. Though this was a trap laid by Cornelia, I will see to it that she understands the consequences of her actions, in endangering innocent lives. Wait, what are you going to do? Ogie asked. You will see. Optimus turned around and drove away from the portal. Ogie honestly didn't know what to make of this. Hey, you know what he's doing? He asked Bumblebee. Don't worry, you can trust him. He always knows what to do. Bumblebee assured him. Ogie sighed a bit. You know, I really need to get some kind of translator for you. Bumblebee would have rolled his own optics as this lack of communication was getting a bit annoyed. But, you guys have helped us before, and you've always kept your word. So, whatever he's doing, I'll trust him. Bumblebee would have smiled at that as he and Ogie drove into the ground bridge portal. Ratchet. RC. Cliffjumper. Lelouch tried to contact the Autobots through his communications, but got no response. Fix-It. Bulkhead. Ironhide. Bumblebee. Anyone please respond. Still no response. What? Did they abandon me? Mission complete. A citywide announcement broadcasted from Cornelia's mobile base. All forces that take formation number 4. Lelouch saw that he was completely surrounded. He had only just now realized that he just walked right into the lion's den. Damn it. Beaten so easily. Optimus, Bumblebee, have you really abandoned me? This isn't how the game is supposed to go. Cornelia smirked in victory. This didn't work out the way it did in Shinjuku, Zero. I may not have gotten any Autobots, but perhaps their retreat is only a distraction, so that you may sneak in disguised as one of us as we lower our guard. Sorry, that may have worked on Clovis, but I'm not so easily fooled. She then began to announce her next order over her mobile base's speaker. Attention all Nightmare pilots. Open your hatches and reveal your faces. I repeat, all pilots open your hatches and show me your faces. Dreadwing looked in mild surprise while the two Viacons beside him were quite stunned. So she learned from her idiot brother's failure and used it to her advantage. One Viacon commented. I hate to admit it, but that's actually a pretty clever strategy. The second Viacon said. Dreadwing said nothing as he looked around at some of the Sutherlands as they opened their hatches. This plan is far more blunt than I would have preferred myself, but still, rather clever. So she knows when and when not to engage in battle. Still, that arrogant attitude of hers could use some work. But what if Zero isn't here? One Viacon asked. What if he retreated with the Autobots? Then we will simply wait for the next battle. Dreadwing told them as they continued to watch more pilots reveal their faces. Little do they know, Zero was in fact here. And it looked like that he was about to have a panic attack as he tried desperately to think of a strategy. What do I do? If she gets me in a line-up, without my mask, my identity will be exposed. That mustn't happen. Use my Geass. No, impossible. It won't work unless I look directly at them, and there are Decepticons here, it won't work on them at all. How do I turn this around? Maybe I can start shooting and break my way out of here. Impossible, to those Decepticons, this Sutherland might as well be tin foil. Without the Autobots, no wonder they broke off contact. If a ground bridge portal opened here, they'd invaded the Ark and learned its location. Open your hatch, soldier. He looked in surprise to see it was none other than Dreadwing addressing him. He may have been up close and personal with the Autobots, but being this close to a Decepticon, especially a high-ranking one, it really made his blood freeze. What are you waiting for? Open your hatch. I'm sorry, I can't. Lelouch desperately tried. My hatch was damaged in battle. Very well, then I will open it for you. Dreadwing said. Lelouch's face paled. This is it, I'm done for. He closed his eyes and waited for the inevitable end. Nunnally. However, before Dreadwing could even make a move there was a loud sound that caught everyone's attention. It was the honking of certain red and blue semi-auto truck. Said truck honked once more, as it broke right through the lineup, knocking down several Sutherlands as it drove towards Cornelia's mobile base. Due to the sudden surprise, as well as most of the pilots being out of their nightmares, the truck drove and swerved to knock down most of the nightmares before it came to a halt right in front of Cornelia's transport. What? Cornelia shot up from her chair in surprise as she, Darlton, and all the officers on board did not see this coming. What is this? Guilford and several Glaston knights quickly surrounded the truck in their Gloucesters, as all the infantry men pointed their guns at it. Even the Viacons pointed their own energon blasters at the truck, as Dreadwing drew a large energon cannon from his back and aimed it at the vehicle. You, identify yourself at once, Guilford demanded. However, no driver stepped out of the truck. Rather instead it transformed to reveal the largest and most powerful Cybertronian present. Cornelia Lee Britannia. I am Optimus Prime, leader of the Autobots, and I challenge you to a duel. Lelouch couldn't contain his surprise. Optimus Prime, Dreadwing exclaimed as he and his Viacons readied their weapons. The Autobot leader, Guilford also exclaimed. Prepare to open fire. Hold your fire. With that command from Cornelia, no one made a move or sound to attack. Though all the Britannian forces kept their weapons trained on Optimus as he glared in the direction of the mobile base. Meanwhile, behind the mobile base, the remnants of the purebloods looked in honest shock and surprise, especially Jeremiah. It's him. It's that damn Autobot. The one with Zero. Jeremiah exclaimed. I will destroy him for. Did you not hear Princess Cornelia? Kuehl exclaimed to him. She said, hold your fire. So unless you want to be charged with even more treason, I suggest you keep it cool, Orange. Jeremiah was about to protest when he turned to see Valletta shaking her head at him. She too wanted revenge on the Autobots for what they did to them, but if they openly defied an order from a member of the royal family, especially since they were already on thin ice as it is, the consequences could be very severe. So with great reluctance, Jeremiah did not proceed forward. However, Dreadwing contacted his one true master. Lord Megatron. Optimus Prime has just now revealed himself, and it seems he is openly challenging Cornelia. Should we engage? No, Dreadwing. Megatron told him. His challenge was to Cornelia, not to me. Let this play out. As you wish. Dreadwing looked to the two Viacons near him as they didn't advance but still kept their weapons on standby. So that's the leader of the Autobots. Darlton said as he and everyone else on board saw the imposing figure of Optimus Prime. I have to admit, he certainly looks intimidating. Cornelia, however, didn't seem the least bit intimidated as she walked forward slightly and spoke over the speaker. Optimus Prime, was it? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought I just heard you challenging me to a duel. You heard correctly. Optimus confirmed. I am challenging you to a one-on-one battle between I and yourself. Lelouch's eyes shook with surprise as this was something he did not expect. Just a minute ago, it felt as though the Autobots had abandoned him, but now their own leader had just walked right into the enemy's lines and challenged their leader to a one-on-one battle. Optimus, why are you? If Optimus could see Cornelia's face right now, it would be one of arrogance. Well, Optimus Prime, it would seem your guts are made of steel like the rest of your body. But, I question your intelligence. You are completely surrounded by my entire royal guard, all of whom are ready to fight and die for Britannia without hesitation. And while you might be able to take out a few of them, there is no way for you to fend them all off. So tell me why I would give you the luxury of a duel when I can simply order your execution right here and now. Are you or are you not the goddess of victory? Optimus questioned. If I recall, in nearly every one of your battles, you've always led the charge in your own personal nightmare. That is, until now. Why change tactics? Do you fear my comrades and myself? While one could make the argument that this was a wise decision, another could make the accusation that you are simply a coward. What? Cornelia said in a low growl. You endangered countless innocent civilians, all to simply draw us out. Optimus continued. Clovis attempted the same thing, hiding behind his own soldiers while he ordered the deaths of countless men, women, and children in Shinjuku, all to cover a mistake he made. If that doesn't count as cowardice, then I don't know what does. Cornelia narrowed her eyes as she practically gritted her teeth. Viceroy, he is only trying to provoke you. Darlton advised her. However, if you truly do wish to uphold yourself as a warrior, then you will accept my challenge. Optimus continued. And if you desire a reason to accept, then I propose a wager. What sort of wager? Cornelia questioned. If I am victorious, then you will vow as a member of the royal family that you will not endanger innocent civilians again. Be they Japanese, Britannian, or any other nationality. Optimus told her. Britannian. Darlton questioned in a low tone. Does he seriously believe we'd attack our own people? How dare this abomination insult Princess Cornelia? One officer exclaimed. He should be executed at once. Their ranting, however, was cut off as Cornelia shot her arm towards them to silence them as she addressed Optimus once more. And if I win, what do I gain? Knowledge that you may find valuable, regarding a certain sibling of yours. Optimus' wager caught Lelouch by an even greater surprise than before. Was he offering to expose his identity to Cornelia? Before he could question any further, he felt a vibration on his phone and answered it. Before you do anything stupid again, let Optimus keep going. He knows what he's doing. Once the coast is clear, get out of that Sutherland and get into the building right behind you. I'll be there. Bumblebee instructed before hanging up. Lelouch couldn't get his thoughts together, so the Autobots didn't abandon him. However, he wasn't sure if he was supposed to be angry or relieved. But he knew Bumblebee was right, this was his chance to escape without Cornelia seeing him. So he put his soldier's helmet back on to hide his face and would wait for the right moment to leave. Optimus' wager was something that Cornelia did not expect. Her sibling. Was he referring to Clovis? Did Zero know something about him? Whatever it was, it certainly caught her attention. What do you mean by that? She questioned. Does this information have anything to do with the identity of Zero? Accept my terms, and you will find out. The Autobot leader told her. Before Cornelia could answer, Darlton tried to speak. Your Majesty, this could simply be an act to lure you into an ambush. I would not accept this challenge. It could be a trap, Your Highness. Guilford agreed over the communications as he was still in his own Gloucester outside. We can destroy him right here and now. I disagree. Dreadwing spoke up. Optimus Prime, while he may be my enemy, he is neither a coward nor a deceiver. If he claims to have knowledge that is important to you, it must be true. I am not saying you should accept his challenge, I am simply telling you that he never lies. Cornelia heard all their advice and smirked. All forces stand down, she ordered before addressing the Autobot directly. Very well, Prime, I accept your challenge. All the Nightmares lowered their weapons, as did Dreadwing and his Viacons. Optimus gazed up at the mobile base once more. We will meet 50 kilometers west of here. I will be waiting for you. Optimus turned around to walk away before transforming and driving off. As he retreated, no one noticed the empty Sutherland that the disguised Lelouch left as he slipped into a ruined building not far from the area. After climbing over some debris, he spotted not only the vehicle mode of Bumblebee but CC wearing his own Zero outfit as well, complete with his mask. "Why did you do that?" "You're welcome," Bumblebee said, though his tone couldn't be identified with his bleeps. It was obvious he was less than pleased. "I told you he wouldn't say thanks," CC said to the disguised Autobots. "You cut off communications with me and leave me out to dry, then just waltz right in and challenging Cornelia without even telling me." Lelouch was about to yell, but Bumblebee cut him off. "Now's not the time for that. Don't worry, we will be talking about this later. But for right now, just get in." Bumblebee opened his doors as CC got in the driver's seat while Lelouch got at the passenger seat. Bumblebee closed his doors and drove off. "Where's everyone else?" Lelouch asked. "The rest of the bots are at the Ark right now. Colin and OG's group, as well as the Yamato Alliance, are all at Shinjuku, getting ready for the show." "What show?" Lelouch raised an eyebrow. "Oh, you'll see," CC said as a ghost of a smirk appeared on her face. 10 minutes later, Bumblebee pulled up right behind Optimus, who stood in his full glory, though Bumblebee remained in his vehicle mode as Lelouch observed the surroundings. They were in the very center of the Saitama ghetto. The arena had a diameter of 50 meters all around. There was no ruins or buildings anywhere, an open arena without any form of cover. The perfect spot for an open duel. CC, still dressed as Zero, left the vehicle. "You're gonna want to stay inside," Bumblebee told Lelouch. It didn't take a genius to know what they were doing. CC was going to act as Zero to make it look as though everyone in her lineup before was a Britannian soldier and that this whole thing wasn't just a big distraction. Optimus stood as he saw a large group of nightmares roll onto the area before coming to a halt 100 meters away from Optimus at the very edge of the arena. These included multiple Sutherlands, including the purebloods being held in the very back of the pack, and many Gloucesters as well, including both Guilford and Darlton in their own personal nightmares. At the front of the pack was Cornelia herself in her own personal custom-made Gloucester. But it wasn't just them. A certain airplane, flanked by 2 more dark purple jets, flew towards the scene before transforming and landing to reveal Dreadwing and his Viacon troopers as they landed next to Cornelia's forces. Dreadwing made contact with Optimus as the Autobot leader gave him a nod of acknowledgement and respect. However, what the Britannian forces did not know was that Bumblebee was recording and broadcasting the footage from his optics and transmitting them to the Ark as Fixit transmitted that frequency to a large television in the hideout for the rebels in Shinjuku as they, including Colin, Ogi, and Tamaki, watched with interest. All the remaining Autobots watched from the Ark's bridge as well as they saw the coming battle from the main screen. It wasn't just them, however, as Laserbeak flew high over the battle and also broadcasted the event taking place to the Nemesis, where Megatron, Soundwave, Starscream, Thundercracker, and Skywarp all continued to watch. Megatron would be lying if he said he wasn't interested at all in the fight about to take place. Up till now, he hadn't seen what Optimus was capable of since the exodus from Cybertron, as he didn't fight against the purebloods, only the rest of his team did. Now he could see what his greatest foe could do. Had he grown weaker or stronger since their last encounter? Either way, it was going to be quite the show. Cornelia saw from her Gloucester that Zero was present as well. She really wanted to get her hands on him for what happened to Clovis. But right now, she had a duel to win. "Soldiers of Britannia, listen closely." Cornelia began to announce to her soldiers, including the 3 Decepticons nearby. "This battle is mine and mine alone. You will not interfere. Is that understood?" "Yes, Your Majesty." All the soldiers, including Guilford and Darlton, all exclaimed at once. "Indeed, the battle is yours. I will not interfere," Dreadwing assured her. With that declaration, Cornelia moved her Gloucester slowly into the battlefield as Optimus began walking towards the center as well. They slowly came towards the center before stopping 20 meters away from each other. "Optimus Prime, before we begin, let me ask you something." Cornelia began. "Why do you fight for these measly 11s? With all the power you posses, you should have sided with us." With all our power combined we could easily control this world. You believe that those with power should use it to oppress others simply because you view them as weak? Optimus questioned. Indeed. Optimus shook his head. That is why I side with them. You may view them as mere numbers, but they think and feel the same way both you and I do. Freedom is the right of all sentient beings. I will fight to protect that right, no matter the cost. Freedom is their right, Cornelia questioned with a scoff. I never realized just how foolishly idealistic you were. It's a law of nature. The strong survive while the weak always perish beneath our feet. That's how it is and how it always will be. For wild animals with base instinct perhaps. Optimus responded. But you are an intelligent being, and with Britannia's resources, your nation could use them to help those less fortunate than you, not oppress them. But you choose this path, you aren't forced onto it, it's a choice. If you truly wish to be a true leader Cornelia, then stray from your father's path of destruction and death, and lead Britannia towards peace. Cornelia's eyes twitched slightly as anger flashed in her eyes before she put herself back in her current situation. Clearly, alien, you do not know how this world works. But don't worry, I'll teach you. It was silent from that point forward. Optimus' faceplate closed as he glared at Cornelia, who glared back from inside her Gloster. No one dared make a move, not the two fighters, nor the Britannian soldiers observing them, not even Dreadwing. Lelouch watched this intensely with Bumblebee. The exiled prince had never seen Optimus in action before, and against Cornelia no less. CC meanwhile had an amused smile underneath the Zero mask. The leader of the Autobots against the goddess of victory of Britannia. This should defiantly be interesting. Everyone else watching from their respective separate locations, Autobots, Decepticons, and Resistance fighters were just as tense as everyone else as not even Optimus nor Cornelia had made a move. The tension was so thick, one could cut it with a knife. A slight breeze blew in between them as they continued to glare, almost as if one was silently daring the other to make the first move. Optimus, though he maintained his glare, kept a cool head and remained calm, while Cornelia's hands twitched slightly on the controls of her nightmare. Finally, Cornelia made the first move as she pulled out her Gloster's rifle and opened fire on Optimus. Optimus' hands converted into his Energon blasters as he ran to avoid the bullets shot at him, while he shot Energon blasts at Cornelia, who moved her Gloster to avoid the shots. Her nightmare moved along the ground at such speed that she was able to avoid all the blasts shot at her, while Optimus ran parallel to her. For someone so large he was quite fast and nimble. Realizing this wasn't getting her anywhere, Cornelia shot her Gloster straight towards Optimus, while still shooting with her rifle to keep him from fighting back. Once she got close enough she shot her Harkins in his direction, however she did not expect him to actually jump and flip over where the Harkins landed. Not only that, he actually landed behind Cornelia and gave a powerful kick to the Nightmare's back to send it skidding across the ground. Darlton and Guilford looked in surprise. No one has ever managed to knock down Cornelia before. However, Dreadwing wasn't surprised in the least. He battled Optimus before and knew just how formidable he was. Cornelia was able to get her Gloster back on its feet before she rolled directly at Optimus with her jousting lance. But Optimus made no effort to avoid it, rather he converted his right hand into one of his signature blades to block and parry the lance's thrust as Cornelia skidded past him. She immediately turned her nightmare around and shot forward again with her lance, only for Optimus to block and parry with his sword again. As Cornelia turned around it appeared she was about to try it again a third time, but as she got close she shot her Harkins out on the ground and propelled her in the air above Optimus. Optimus was able to roll underneath the cables of the Harkins as they pulled Cornelia's Gloucester down. As she descended she pulled out her rifle again and shot at Optimus, who ran back to avoid the shot. Just as she landed, he pulled out his Energon blaster in his right hand and shot the rifle out of her Nightmare's hands, obliterating the weapon. Cornelia growled in frustration before she readied her lance and shot for Optimus again as he converted both his hands into blades, ready to block it. However, Cornelia did something unexpected as she held her lance in her Nightmare's right arm, but threw her left arm out for a punch, which Optimus blocked with the flat part of his right blade, but it left his right flank vulnerable as Cornelia pierced her lance into his side and shot past him. The Gloster skidded to a halt some distance past Optimus as she saw him hold his wood where blue liquid energon leaked out of it. She saw it and smirked. "Do you see that?" she announced to her soldiers. "He bleeds. These Autobots aren't invincible, they are vulnerable. And anything that's vulnerable can be killed." However, Optimus wasn't the least fazed as he stood up straight. "Are you proud?" "What?" Cornelia questioned. "You only managed to scratch me. Are you proud of this achievement?" Optimus asked, not even fazed by the small wound Cornelia gave him. "Oh, you are going to get a lot more than just a scratch. Optimus Prime, I will be your end." Cornelia shot her Gloster straight at Optimus with her lance, at her Nightmare's top speed, ready to impale him. However, Optimus let her come. And just before she could thrust her lance into his chest area, Optimus actually caught the weapon with both his hands. Using her own momentum, he actually lifted up the Gloster over his head and threw her across the ground. "No way!" Lelouch exclaimed in surprise as he still watched from inside Bumblebee. While CC, still disguised as Zero, also looked in shock, which was a first for even her. "Princess Cornelia!" Guilford shouted as Darlton's own eyes widened in surprise. Dreadwing however kept his eyes on the battle, as he wasn't the least bit surprised. Cornelia was completely stunned by this, but was quick to regain her bearings as she tried to pull up her damaged Nightmare. She looked in shock to see Optimus actually running toward her like a speeding bullet. Acting on instinct, she shot her lance out forward, but Optimus already had his blade ready and actually sliced through the lance down the middle and dragged his blade through the Gloster's right arm before completely severing it. She tried to throw a punch with her Nightmare's left arm, but Optimus caught it effortlessly before crushing its fist in his own hand. Now it was Optimus' turn to go on the offensive as he began to lay a series of punches all across Cornelia's Gloster. Each punch was thrown with such force that the internal systems of the Nightmare suffered severe damage, though Optimus held back a bit as to not kill Cornelia inside. The Britannian Sodaliers could not believe what they were seeing as Optimus Prime continued to punch the Gloster owned by Princess Cornelia Lee Britannia. Wiflord's eyes shook with shock. "No, this can't be possible," he uttered. Darlton was equally shocked as he gripped the controls of his Nightmare hard. Princess Cornelia is actually losing. Finally, after several more punches, Optimus delivered a powerful fist directly to the face of the Gloster, so powerful that it actually knocked off the Nightmare's head. Optimus then delivered the finishing blow as he drew his blade and slashed at the Gloster's abdomen area, just below the cockpit. The Nightmare wasn't cut in half, but it was deep enough that its systems were now completely inoperable as it fell on its back in defeat. "This duel is over. You have lost," Optimus declared. With that declaration, the entire battlefield had been rendered silent. Lelouch couldn't believe what he had just seen, such skill and power. Optimus Prime knew exactly what to do and applied what force was necessary to win, and he didn't even kill her. He was a force to be reckoned with. CC had the same sort of thoughts as she couldn't help but give an impressed smile at the result. The forces of Britannia however were far from pleased. Guilford was completely speechless, while Darlton narrowed his eyes and gripped his controls so hard it felt as though his knuckles would have turned white. Jeremiah's jaw was agape while Kuel's eyes shook beyond belief. Optimus Prime defeated Princess Cornelia, the goddess of victory. Valletta thought in an equal amount of disbelief. The Autobots, just who are these warriors? The Cybertronians present weren't all that surprised. Bumblebee had fought beside Optimus for years and he knew he had what it takes to win. No way Cornelia was ever going to beat him. Dreadwing had expected this outcome. While he knew Optimus was the most skilled fighter he ever encountered, it was also Cornelia's arrogance that also got the better of her. "The Ark. All right. That's how we do it," Bulkhead exclaimed with a wide grin as the rest of Team Prime saw the battle come to an end. "As if there was ever any doubt," Cliffjumper said with a bit of a smug expression. "Way to take that wannabe Decepticon down a peg, Optimus," Ironhide stated with a smirk and a nod. "Well, I'm not really all that surprised. I mean, this is Optimus we're talking about," RC commented with her own smirk. Indeed, there was no possible means of victory for Cornelia, Ratchet said as he knew what his oldest friend was capable of and it dwarfed anything Cornelia had to offer. Despite knowing this victory was likely, it's still a privilege to watch Optimus Prime work. Fix-It said in between glitches. Pretty much every Resistance fighter cheered at the top of his or her lungs as the Kazuki Resistance Cell and the Yamato Alliance just saw Optimus' victory. "Hell yeah," Suck it, Britannia. Tamaki cheered with everyone else. Autobots won. Britannia nothing. That was amazing. He took down Cornelia. He completely destroyed her. How does Zero know these guys? Well, they can sign me up. I'm definitely gonna work with these guys. The only ones not cheering or celebrating were Colin and Ogie, as they were still quite shocked with the result. Though Colin was the first to break silence. He won. Optimus Prime beat Cornelia. Colin uttered before a wide grin broke on her face. He can beat them. They can beat them. The Autobots, Zero, they can beat Britannia. We can actually win this. Ogie said nothing as he saw Optimus' figure from the TV. This alien being was not only powerful, but he could tell just from a few short meetings and fighting beside him, that he meant what he said. Optimus Prime would stand and protect Japan and all others that Britannia and even the Decpetians would oppress. Ogie smiled. He didn't know him long, but he would trust Optimus with his life. He would even follow him into hell if he was asked to. The Nemesis. Though Starscream and Skywarp looked frustrated at this, Thundercracker wasn't surprised. This was the most likely outcome. However, it still would have been satisfying to see if by some miracle that Optimus did indeed fall, but they knew that Cornelia didn't have what it takes to bring him down. Despite the enemy's victory, Megatron chuckled slightly. After all these years, Optimus, still at the top of your game. Saitama. Cornelia couldn't believe it. She lost. For the first time in her life, she actually lost. She lost a real battle, a one-on-one duel. How was this possible? She was the goddess of victory. The pride of Britannia. But now she couldn't even move her nightmare. Her body wasn't all that great either, as she felt some bruises all over her body. Her right arm was sprained, and she even had some blood trickling down the right side of her face, past her eye. But nothing was more damaged than her own pride. The only thing working with her Gloucester was the screen in front of her, but barely, as she could see Optimus looking down at her through the static. Well, what are you waiting for? She spoke to him through a spiteful growl. Finish it. Finish me. I'm ready. However, Optimus made no such moves. His faceplate opened as he shook his head. No. Cornelia's head shot up in disbelief. What? You are defeated, your nightmare cannot move, and you are unable to defend yourself any further. There is no point in me taking your life. Optimus told her. You must. You cannot. Cornelia stuttered. I can, because at the moment you are helpless, unable to defend yourself. Optimus said. And no matter the circumstances, even if you are my enemy, I will never terminate a helpless life form. Otherwise I'd be no different from your father or Megatron. Cornelia shook with rage and disbelief as Optimus looked towards her as well as her own soldiers. You have accepted the terms of this duel, and you have lost. Optimus began. From this point forward, you will no longer endanger innocent civilians, regardless of their nationality. If you choose to wage war, then very well, but it will remain solely between soldiers. If any of you have any sense of loyalty or honor, then you will respect these terms. Guilford and Darlton glared at him, but they knew that was what they will do. Though they themselves did not make the agreement, their princess made it. So they too will follow it, and they would no longer attack any civilians, even the 11s living in the ghettos. Dreadwing gave a nod of acknowledgement. Though he wasn't officially one of Cornelia's soldiers, he was among the few Decepticons with a sense of honor, and he would never endanger innocents. Optimus then turned around and began to walk away. But Cornelia wouldn't have it. In a fit of rage, she manually opened her cockpit and stuck out as she pulled out her sword gun weapon and shot at Optimus. Get back here, she shouted as she continued to shoot at him, the bullets bouncing harmlessly off his metal body. I'm not done with you. This isn't over. Come back and face me. Optimus stopped briefly and turned back to Cornelia as she continued to shoot, even after her gun ran out of ammo. I will leave you a warning. Do not trust Megatron. If you do, you will regret it. With that final warning, Optimus transformed into his vehicle mode and met up with Bumblebee, as well as Lelouch and CC as they rode inside the Autobot Scout. A ground bridge portal opened up and they were both transported back to the Ark before it closed. Cornelia couldn't believe it. With a yell she threw her weapon away and began to pound her fist into the damaged body of her nightmare. Damn it! Damn it all! She yelled. Not only does he humiliate me in front of my own soldiers, but he doesn't even see fit to grant me a warrior's death. Exclamation mark. Does he think I'm beneath him? She looked in the direction where the ground bridge portal had vanished as her eyes shook with unbelievable rage as her soldiers came to her aid. I am a woman of my word, so I will honor the terms of this agreement. However, I swear even if it's the last thing I do, I will kill you Optimus Prime. I'll have your head mounted on my wall. The Ark. Bumblebee and Optimus had arrived back at the Ark with Lelouch and CC as the later took off the mask to show her face. Once the humans exited the two Autobots and they transformed, Lelouch noticed the looks the Autobots were giving him. They were looks of disappointment and even anger, especially with Ironhide and RC. So, you decided to grace us with your presence, Your Majesty. Ironhide said mockingly. Don't call me that, Lelouch stated. You really have no room to complain here. Ironhide stated. How could you not see the whole thing was a trap? It was exactly like Shinjuku. Cornelia may not be a strategist, but you don't need to master strategy to know she was playing you. Sorry Lelouch, but I gotta go with everyone else on this, you really messed up big time. Cliffjumper said. Though he wasn't angry with him, he was still disappointed. I don't need a lecture. Lelouch said in a low. We think you do. Ratchet said. You are a strategic genius Lelouch, we know that. So how is it that you couldn't see that you were being drawn in? It was because you let your pride get to you. You won a few battles and you have a power that no other human has, now you suddenly believe you can take on the entire Britannian Empire and win. Any competent force learns from their mistakes, and it seemed they have. I would have won if the conditions were equal. Conditions were equal, Ironhide exclaimed. This isn't a game. This is war. It's not like chess where your opponent has to abide by the rules. Megatron doesn't care about following the rules. He doesn't play fair, and neither does Britannia, so don't expect them to. He's right, Lelouch. Bulkhead began in a less strict, but still straightforward tone. No offense, but we got a lot more experience than you don't know war like we do. The cons aren't gonna pay fair. I have all the data on Cybertron's battles if you want to look at that. Fix-It offered. Lelouch looked away with a scowl. Oh, and by the way, CC told us what you tried to do back at Ashford. He looked in surprise as he turned to the immortal-haired girl who simply shrugged while Bumblebee continued. Did you seriously threaten to kill yourself in order for her to let you go? Really? That seems like something a spoiled little kid would do to get their way. I can't have you dying Lelouch. CC added. And it seems that they'd prefer to have you alive as well seeing as how you're working with them. Emphasis on, working with us. Ironhide said sturdily. Contrary to what you think, we're not your personal weapons of mass destruction. This is my fight, Lelouch yelled. I made a vow to obliterate Britannia and I will do that no matter what it takes. You still don't get it, do you? RC began. A couple of victories doesn't mean you're invincible. Not every mission results in success. Not for me, not for B, not even for Optimus. What happened to you and your sister was a tragedy and you have my sympathies, but you're not the only one who knows what loss is. All those rebels we're fighting with, every single one of them has lost something. Their homes, their friends, their families. And we know what that's like too. We've won battles and we've lost some, we've lost friends too, we even lost our whole world. Cybertron is gone, we can't ever go home now, do you understand what that's like? But you still have your planet, and we have a chance to save, a chance to stop Britannia and the cons from doing to it what happened to our home. But if we're going to win this, everybody in this room needs to be in sync. This isn't about you or your own little vendetta. Lelouch didn't expect something like that. He couldn't think of a response as he simply looked away. Alright, I believe that is enough. Optimus said to his team. You have all made your point. Optimus, he needs to hear this. RC insisted. Ironhide and Ratchet looked towards Optimus as they silently told him that they agree with RC, they need to make sure this sticks with Lelouch. You might actually do it. RC continued to speak to Lelouch. You might actually defeat your father and make this world a better place, and I sincerely hope that you do, but that begins and ends with putting the team first. Not your personal scorecard. I will destroy the empire of Charles Z. Britannia. Lelouch suddenly exclaimed, letting his emotions get the better of him. I'll do whatever it takes to make this world better for Nunnally. Then stop acting like a Britannian prince, and start being a soldier, an Autobot. RC told him. Lelouch's look softened a bit as he instinctively glanced towards Optimus, who held a straightforward look. Though he didn't say it, Optimus agreed with everything they said. If Lelouch really wanted to create that sort of world, he needed to put his comrades and his team first. This wasn't about him. The former prince turned revolutionary side as he relaxed a little. Alright, so, what's the next step? The group calmed down a bit as it seemed Lelouch was now willing to listen to them. Though he still probably had a long way to go, it was at least a start. Well, since Optimus took down Cornelia, both Oji's group and the Yamato Alliance have sent messages about wanting to join us. Bulkhead said. Lelouch smiled slightly. That's good to hear. We talked about this before, that if we're going to actually stand a chance at beating Britannia and the Decepticons, we're gonna need to build an army. Ironhide said. But since we can't reach any other Autobots out in space, we're gonna have to work with what we got here. Cliffjumper added. I have tried to send out signals, but with the state the Ark is in, not to mention that we are actively hiding from the Decepticons, I've had less than successful results. Fixit said. While I personally aren't fond with involving humans, it seems like we don't have a choice. Ratchet said. But 2 resistance groups aren't enough for us to wage a full-scale war. Then we better start building our army. Lelouch said. An army that can lose to Britannia or the Decepticons. A people. A nation. Optimus nodded. Then let's get to work. Meanwhile, in an unknown location, the current Emperor of Britannia, Charles Z. Britannia, stood on what appeared to be some kind of ancient altar as he looked to what appeared to be a cloudy sky with a strong light behind it. The silence was broken by a series of footsteps as someone who bore the appearance of a young boy entered. Charles, how are things proceeding here? VV asked. Steadily, big brother. Charles answered. I was just conversing with Clovis, actually. VV had a bit of an amused smile as he walked to his brother's side. Looks like Lelouch has now joined with the Autobots, they even defeated Cornelia of all people. I'm not really surprised, Charles said. If they are anything like what Megatron has told us, then the Autobots will present a problem for our empire. Speaking of our old teacher, now that Optimus Prime has revealed himself, Megatron might take a more active role in our world's affairs. VV said with concern. Should he learn of what we've been doing? He won't, Charles said. His gaze is fixated solely on Area 11 where Optimus and Lelouch are. So long as he focuses on them, we'll be secure. CC is there as well. VV said. If Megatron happens to find her before we do, it could cause some problems. Perhaps you're right. We'll need to accelerate the project, but we can't rush it too much. It's a delicate process and we cannot afford any mistakes. Charles stated. And Lelouch, will he be a problem? VV asked. I wouldn't worry about him just yet. Megatron might handle him for us. Charles said. Don't worry big brother, the dream that you and I and Marianne all shared will come into fruition. I will make sure of it. At the mention of the woman's name, VV's eyes twitched slightly. Even in death, her name still brought out some spite and jealousy in him. I'm sure it will. I'll leave you to it, then. VV left the area, leaving Charles alone, or supposedly. Charles, a new voice spoke in his mind. I admit, I'm rather nervous. This is Megatron we're talking about. He's even smarter than Lelouch and Schneisel combined, and more powerful than anything we have at our disposal. If he learns of our project, Marianne, I promise, he won't. Ragnarok will make this world a better place. I promise. And this is the end of part 4 of this What If. I hope you guys like it. Do not forget to leave a comment down below and subscribe to the channel.